hello. I'm your cult boyfriend, and I'd like to welcome you guys to another live stream. Today we're going to be talking about the best horror movies ever. Wait, the best horror directors ever. And then I'm going to do a quick Brian De Palma ranking because I love his movies. And I rewatched Carrie today and realized that I loved it deeply. And today I'm excited. I have a guest. You've seen her, you know her, you love her, you hate her. Ladies and gentlemen, Isabel. How you doing today, Isabel?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. We were just talking about Stanley Kubrick before the stream went on. So you were talking about like Full Metal Jacket. And
Oh,
I
okay.
rewatched Full Metal Jacket as well. I rewatched Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut. And yeah, I love both those movies.
I've told you my favorite is Eyes Wide Shut. My top two are Eyes Wide Shut in 2001, and then the rest kind of it's some rotation of Barry Lyndon, Full Metal Jacket, and The Shining, and A Clockwork Orange is either top three or lower depending on the day. I have like a weird relationship with that one, but Full Metal Jacket I hadn't seen in a while, and I actually usually put it a little lower, but watching it again, I realized how much I really love it. I hadn't
Mm.
seen it in quite a while. I'd seen it a few times, but not in like at least 5 years or more. And I was like, holy shit, this is
Oh,
good.
it's
I forgot
phenomenal.
how good this is. Yeah. Like the I was kind of just gliding through it, but then the whole last act, the sniper set piece sent me into another dimension. I was like, this is incredible. This is incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. I talked a little bit about it in the last stream. Um, some symbolic layering of the film's kind of incredible. I think that the combat and the boot camp mirror each other. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
in the boat that's like one of the popular criticisms of Full Metal Jacket is that the boot
The
camp is like
first
so
half is
much
better.
better. But they're both amazing. I don't know. Okay, you
I
lose
never
Gomer
got
Pyle, but you gain Animal Mother. Like it's fine.
I think part of that is people just legitimately like the Hartman and like because like my first job was at a movie theater and I remember vividly this guy who was like he was like, oh, that movie's the funniest movie ever made, and he was always like quoting shit Hartman said. I was like, there's only so much shit you can quote from him considering half of it is either homophobic or like racist. But um no, I always like the second half more historically, but on this watch, I felt like they really complemented
They
each other,
really
and I,
do.
I can't I can't pick one I prefer over the other. I mean, I guess I prefer the second half just because I think that's where the real meat is of the movie, but I also think the first half sets the stage for and reinforces everything you see. Like it puts everything about the second half into context. So I don't think the movie would work as well without the first half, but they need both. They need both.
Yeah, I think the two halves really speak to each other. Just like when I watched Eyes Wide Shut very recently, like yesterday. And I thought that the two halves of that movie spoke to each other as well, like
Yeah,
effortlessly.
people don't a lot of his movies have this weird like two act structure, but you never really see people mention Eyes Wide Shut in that company. It's usually like a Clockwork Orange and Full Metal Jacket. But Eyes
I
Wide
think
Shut,
that's
by
when
the way,
it's
is one of my top five movies ever.
yeah. I think that in those two movies, I wouldn't say it's most obvious, but I was also talking about Kubrick the other day in the sense that I don't think he had a peak. I actually think his progression was like natural. I don't think Full Metal Jacket and Eyes Wide Shut being his last two movies. I think they're almost his most refined movies, and maybe his skill as a director was so like controlled that
Yeah,
the mirror makes sense. You know.
I think it just goes up and up. I will say the one of his early movies. I haven't seen Spartacus because I've never been able to inspire myself to devote 3 hours to it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I'll dislike it. I just think I'll be like, okay, it's good. And I just that's a lot of time to donate to that goal. But I actually I saw for the first time sometime in the past 12 months The Killing, and I loved it actually. I
I'm not
really like that
huge on
movie.
it.
I just like how nihilistic it is.
It is. I call it cosmically pessimistic. That
Yeah,
ending is just oh boy,
it's
Kubrick.
so good. It's so dark. I regret not watching it earlier. Really, because like I just assumed it wasn't gonna interest me. His first feature, I read the one about the like noirish one. I think it's about a boxer or something.
The Killer's Kiss one?
Yeah, that one, it's pretty good. It's got a lot of his
Yeah,
trademarks, I think, more than people might realize, but that's
I
not
don't care
necessarily
for it.
enough to like send it. Yeah, it's not super good. The Killing I
I
love.
think that Doctor Strangelove and Up are all pretty much bangers. So,
Yeah, Doctor Strangelove was the first of his that I fell in love with. 2001 took me to. I saw that first when I was 13, but I didn't really get it
and
until later in life.
while he's known to have, directed one of the most, beloved horror movies ever, I'm not convinced that he's not, like, a horror director. I don't think he likes the genre. He didn't make it into the tier we're gonna be doing in just a minute or 2.
I do kind
Um,
of contest that reading, but it's not really worth getting into under these circumstances.
I knew if I had him, because I knew you were gonna join me, I knew if I put him on there, it'd be a 20-minute, tangent. So, but
He has more of a heart than Stephen King. That's all I'll say on that
right,
subject.
but speaking of Stephen King adaptations, another movie I rewatched in the last 2 days was,
Oh,
Carrie. Uh,
good to
fucking beautiful movie. I also rewatched The Double Life of Veronique, but I haven't it's
I
just
haven't seen
great.
that in like a decade.
It's really good. It's really
My
good.
Kozlowski era was literally like 2015 or 2016. I haven't seen that in a long time. Any of
Mm,
his stuff.
fair enough. And, we got some comments. Wish this was scheduled for right now. I have to until 5 PM to kill time at work. I'm so bored. Well, Duval, I'm glad you're excited for this live stream because it was your idea to do this. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, you said, "How about best horror movie directors?" And that's what we started doing. Hello, ML. I think we're, August is fine. Like 5 days into
Right.
it. Thanks for coming. Let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. All
How
right.
mad am I gonna get?
Yeah, I don't know if like the goal of this is for us to like agree.
Oh, I already see the one. I see the one we're gonna fight about. All right, I'm ready.
Which one are we gonna fight about? Which ones?
Top row all the way on the right. As soon as I saw
Well, I mean,
a certain ethnicity and Zach loses his fucking mind.
a certain ethnicity? What are you talking about? Oh my
You
god.
hate Japanese directors. You hate Japanese filmmakers.
I
I've
hate
not heard you
Akira
say kindly.
Kurosawa. I hate like the whitest Japanese director.
Okay, that's worse than what I said.
That
That's
is not worse than what you said. You
all
said I
right.
hated hell.
You've basically made that joke before. We're
No,
off
I
to a
haven't.
great start.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I don't know. Let's start moving through this. No, I put Kiyoshi on here because I remembered that you liked him. But
Yeah,
in
I
all
do. I love
seriousness,
Kyoshi.
I don't see a whole lot of D tier directors on here.
Yeah, some of them are a little hard to see because of the quality on my screen, like the image quality, but I think I get the gist.
Yeah, there's full screen for anybody watching. Um, yeah, I don't see a whole lot of D tier directors. Might not make too many people mad on this stream. I'm not sure
Yeah,
until we get to Kiyoshi, I guess.
sure we'll find a way.
But starting off with Alfred Hitchcock, like, oh, wait, are we supposed to agree? I still don't know because there's no possible way
About what?
about
Alfred?
any of the tiers, any of these places.
Oh, I feel like it's relatively self-explanatory. I would say I don't. I'll trust your final judgment. I'll 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 I'll
Yeah.
trust you.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm gonna put Alfred Hitchcock at the C. How's that sound to you?
I would go B. The thing about Hitchcock is like I hate his reputation, and I hate the things people like about him are what I tend to not like the about him, and the movies of his I like are the ones that are like the least Hitchcockian ones. So I never know what to do with them. I have an ongoing joke where I just like to shit on him and say he's like one of my least favorite directors, but that's not actually true. Like I think The Birds is a perfect movie. I legitimately think The Birds is one of them. arguably one of the 10 best horror movies ever made. But then like stuff like Notorious, I don't give a fuck. I hate that shit.
Um,
I like The Birds, I like Vertigo, and I like Rear Window. And I think To Catch a Thief is fun because it's a movie that exists for no other reason than to be thirsty over Cary Grant. So
well, how about this? Well, Notorious is is a great film to get thirsty over Ingrid, but still,
sure.
I did a
There's a
best
great
I did a best directors tier list, and I think I put him at C. But I think for horror directors, maybe you're right. Like, he basically invented a lot of the language that at least a good handful of these people
I don't know.
went on to
I think
fully
he
incorporate.
deserves I think he deserves at least B just for The Birds. That movie is a fucking black hole. It's one of the darkest things I've ever watched. I love
I'm not a fan of the birds. I think it's like super passe. But
I like that at least it's not that like Swiss watch shit where it's like the whole bit of it is that like it keeps introducing stuff and then deliberately denying you resolution on any of it. On any of it.
sure, it's just hard for me to rationalize that it came out 2 years before Repulsion. And I'm like, this
Fair enough.
feels like such a hokey movie.
Fair enough.
But it's fine. Like I said, I like Rebecca and Suspicion and Shadow of a Doubt, and I do like Notorious. But this next
I,
guy is Alexander Aja. You familiar with him at all? He's like a French extremity director. He did
oh,
High Tension, which I think is actually really good.
haven't
And
seen that.
he did the remake of The Hills Have Eyes and a movie called Crawl. Um, I'll I'll put him as the first C. High Tension was damn good, and it's one of the most probably the most influential of that French extremity wave, I would say. Switchblade Romance, I think it's known in Europe.
Oh,
Um,
he made the Ninth Life of Louis Drax.
do you like that? Because
I'm just kidding. I've never heard of that. It's like
I'm putting him at
uh,
C. All right. He's a pretty brutal director. The Hills Have Eyes remake.
I might have seen bits of that, but I don't.
not a huge fan of it, but it's really brutal. And I don't know. High Tension's just really good though, and we have to have some French extremity represented on here because I didn't feel right putting like Gaspar Noé on here, you know. And next up is Don Coscarelli.
Respect. I respect the
Respect,
Coscarelli.
but
Yeah.
like, where does he go? Because I have so much respect for Phantasm.
Yeah, Phantasm is good. Phantasm is good.
And if you saw Masters of Horror, he has a great episode of it called "Incident on and Off a Mountain Road." I think it's really
I
great.
haven't seen that one, but I know it. He also made I doubt you've seen it. Beastmaster
No, I've seen
for all the
Beastmaster.
Beastmaster heads in the audience right now. I know they're out there. Uh, I've only seen his movies in a theater context too. I saw both
Mm.
Phantasm and Beastmaster on the big screen as they're meant to be seen. Um, he's fun. He's
It's just
fun.
it's just how harsh are we gonna be? Like, because
I would say C is pretty reasonable because like I consider B well B or C is reasonable, but I think if you want to go for C, I won't argue that.
I
B is
think I
where I
do
feel
want to
like
go for C.
yeah, B I feel like is where we're at the like they're good directors. They are good like workman directors with like plenty to show for it, and then A is like pretty great, and then S is like better than anything.
Like the
But
13-year-old in me that fell in love with Phantasm won't let me put him down to D, even though he's just at C for Phantasm, really. Like,
yeah, I want to see the sequels or at least some of them. I'm gonna do Hooptober this year, so maybe I'll be able to work some of that in.
hey, Duvall, The Birds is one of the darkest comedies I think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
Hitchcock did have a really good sense of humor,
better than I think he gets credit for.
better than Polanski and De Palma combined.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite. I think it's one of the funniest things I've ever seen in a movie is when I watched To Catch a Thief, and there's a moment where Cary Grant is like, "Oh no, I have to go hide for a minute. I got to stay out of the eye so I'm not seen." And it cuts to him like in a really tiny swimsuit, just swimming, and it's just like 5 minutes of Cary Grant swimming, and he's like, "All right, I'm good now." and then it just goes back to the plot. It's literally like a brief little aside from the plot just to show Cary Grant half naked. And I thought it was hilarious. I was cracking the fuck up when that happened.
Well, it's fun to think about how a lot of these directors, I think, have directed pretty good comedies at the same time, and we're gonna
Yeah,
cover a
I
few
mean,
horror comedy guys as well.
I I think and a lot I think I've seen a lot of these guys in their own interviews like make the connection between, horror and comedy. Um, you know, like certainly guys like Peter Jackson, definitely Hooper.
Yeah.
Um, James Whale was probably the first to do it. So, I feel like they've all in their own way kind of made that
Well,
connection.
I know we're waiting for the Kiyoshi disagreement, but I think we have one right here with Todd
Oh,
Browning.
Todd. Yeah, Todd's the GOAT.
I know you think Todd's the GOAT.
Even if we were to remove Dracula from the equation, which I don't mind entirely doing, just because the alternative is that it was actually secretly directed by Carl Frun, who's
Hmm.
just as much of a hero of cinema as far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned. So it's like I win no matter what. I love his silent movies. I love all of his work with Lon Chaney. I think The Unknown and the Blackbird or the Blackbird. I'm having a moment where just because like every movie from that era is like the Blackbird, the Black Cat, the Black Crow, and there's like 7 movies with the same title. But those movies are great. I love West of Zanzibar. And then of course everyone loves Freaks. But I even if we take Freaks and Dracula out of it, I think he's one of the best in the
All
game.
right, so we agree he's at the bottom of the seat here. That'd be excellent. Good.
No, he's so good.
Since you're the guest, I'll put him up to B, but that's
I'll
it.
accept that.
That's
I'll accept
as far as Todd Browning goes. Um,
No thoughts
next
on
up
him?
is a bit of a wild card here. Lee Janaic, Lee, one of those. She's made 4 movies. She's made the Fear Street trilogy and Honeymoon, I believe.
I see, I see.
And I
So
have
that's
a
new stuff. That's new.
like relatively, right? Like, well,
I I did not see the Fear Street stuff, but a lot of people I know had fun with it. Or
I I found Fear Street to be like both miserable and magnificent. There's something about it that's just inhuman and algorithm like driven and derived. But
yeah, I really want to give the credit to like the because that's a Shutter series, right? Like the straight to Shutter
Netflix.
or Netflix. Okay, that explains it then. There we go. The problem because like
But
I want
even
to give
under those
credit.
circumstances, like there's a vision there, and
Yeah,
it comes through the algorithm. Like it's better than it. Here's my problem with Lee, and where to place her, because I'm going to place her right now at the beginning of the seat here because I think she shows a lot of potential. But she's already made 4 movies,
young.
and she's been working since like 2014. I think Honeymoon came out, like her first one, and there was a big gap in between films that she made, and then
It
she
seems
made
like
Fear Street.
it seems like the Fair Streets were all like back to back as far as I can tell too. So because they were all
Yeah,
made in like the same year, right?
yeah,
So
like they came out
uh,
within like a week of each other.
I'm almost liable to like treat it as if that's just one film project that just happens to be long, especially since it was made under the streaming. Like at that point, you're basically making a TV show or something under TV conditions. But I don't know. I can't really judge that too much. Just that when you're doing something that kind of context, I'm liable to give you still some credit for what you could do down the road.
Yeah, she shows potential, but it's weird to say that about a director who's already made 4 movies over the span of a decade.
I feel
So,
like that's so often the a thing these days. Like I feel like a director will make a movie in 2013 and then they play like the production or writing game for like a decade and then come back. I mean, um, Chad Stileski's only made like 4 movies and they're all John Wick movies. So it's
oh
like
right.
we have no other metric for what he can do as a director. So stuff like that, it's just like I don't know what to say.
But there were parts of Fear Street that I found really impressive. So I'm gonna put her at the top of C.
Fair enough.
Um, Next up is Neil Marshall. most known for the horror films The Descent and Dog Soldiers. And man, I think that C is gonna get a bit crowded, personally. I think The Descent's really great. I think The Descent's a really interesting, look at, depression and trauma and loss, but that's,
Yeah.
that's not unique in the horror film canon, but it's uniquely expressed within The Descent. And a lot of people love Dog Soldiers, that his kind of weird, uber masculine, werewolf film, which isn't too bad. And do you have any thoughts on Neil Marshall?
I haven't seen. I know he made Hellboy, but
Oh,
that's it.
yeah. Is that like he made the new Hellboy?
Yeah, the remake of Hellboy or
Yeah,
reboot.
he's never getting out of C, but he's a C tier horror
There's
director.
something noble about the guy who's a C tier horror director who will never make it out. That in its own way is
I
a
think maybe
noble
Don
profession.
Coscarelli is the quintessential C tier.
C tier completely
um,
inoffensive, nothing too problematic about that fate, but in
do you
horror
have
more than any other genre.
mhm. Do you have any thoughts on James Wan?
So I haven't watched any,
Oh
but
my
I feel
god.
so intimately familiar with him all the same. I feel like, cause like growing up, I feel like I've just been surrounded by like I know everything that happens in Saw One, and I've probably seen most of the scenes from it, just never like in one go. Same thing with stuff like the first Conjuring and I don't know how to tell apart the Insidious movies, but I know he did some of them. But I don't know. I just feel like surrounded by his image. It's that Stephen King effect where it's like you could not read a single Stephen King book and you feel like you might as well be able to like write a book on him. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
how it feels. James Wan feels for me. His style is so like all encompassing and
Well,
straightforward.
I love James Wan. I love him to death, and I actually have
Yeah,
seen *Malignant*, and *Malignant* was amazing. *Malignant* was fucking insane.
I'll watch it.
Um, yeah, there were equal parts like Giallo, equal parts,
Mm.
Argento, and then something even fucking crazier and weirder than that. Like,
I I've been wanting to do like a run through of at least the hits. Like I want to watch Saw, I want to watch The Conjurings, and I want to watch *Malignant*. *Malignant* I actually wanted to see in theaters, but I just wasn't able to make it at the time. But
oh, *Malignant*
um,
was fucking insane. It was great. It was great.
he
And I
he
think that The
strikes me
Conjuring's his best. The Conjuring is, like, to me, a
interesting.
fascinating film. I think The Conjuring 2 and Insidious 2 are all fantastic. Saw is a great debut. *Malignant's* fucking really cool, and since you've never watched any of his movies, I can do this and you don't really know any better. He's our first S director.
I'm liable to think I will consider him somewhere in the A to B tier based on what I know of his work when I see
Look,
it. But we don't know for sure till I watch it. Maybe he'll be my favorite director of all time. Maybe
he might be okay, to me, *Malignant* is fun. It's good to see your intrepid commentator. *Malignant* is really fun.
I thought you were just insulting them, calling them an intrepid commentator.
That's the name. I'm not insulting
I know, I
anyone.
see that now. I was like, Zach, why?
But James Wan, I think you'd really like him because he reminds me so much of a new, where is he? A new Carpenter, to be real. Because like when I think of Carpenter, I think of really good action and horror. And of course, with
Yeah.
James Wan, we also got like fucking Aquaman and like Fast Seven or something. Like he did one of the Fast and Furious movies, one of the coolest
He
ones.
he also the on the topic of Kiyoshi, Kiyoshi Kurosawa supposedly loved Aquaman, and because of a translation of something he said in a Japanese magazine or publication. And then they went someone was like, no, that's not accurate because he was just like he went to see it with his wife because she wanted to see it, and he was like, yeah, it was pretty good, but it got translated as my movie of the year, and so all these people on like Letterboxd and stuff have been like reclaiming Aquaman, and they're like, Kiyoshi was so right. This is a masterpiece, and it's like he doesn't even actually love it. He just kind of passively enjoyed it with his wife.
I think Aquaman's pretty dope. I don't care. And yeah, Furious 7. is a total banger. Nessie is completely right in the chat. We're all James Wan heads here. James Wan's amazing. I think I would
The
love to
James
know what
Wan
you
heads
thought
are
of
in the
like
chat.
Malignant or Insidious 2. I would love to know.
I'm absolutely looking to see at minimum Saw and Malignant for this upcoming fall season. That's pretty set in stone for me.
Can't wait to watch this later. And you think Carpenter is one of the best? I think we think Carpenter is one of the best too.
I think Carpenter's one of the
But
best.
I bring up Carpenter there because Big Trouble Little China. Like, compare. I see a lot of Wan and Carpenter.
I can see that.
And I just think that Juan, his composition is like almost second to none, especially when it comes to you coined this term, the return on the channel
Oh yeah.
that came
Did
after the
I?
postmodern horror. Yeah, I think. Well, I take credit for it. I'm giving it to you.
I did it. If you try to make money off that later, it was me.
But there was the postmodern horror wave that was characterized mostly by teen slasher movies like Scream, and I know you did last summer, and then things like 9/11 and Columbine happened, and we had something called The
Mhm.
Return, where the horror genre went back to basics, to the exploitation building blocks of the genre. And I think that the three most outside the French extremity filmmakers, like
Yeah.
Aha, that we just covered, the three filmmakers who are at least were the most popular were James Wan, Rob Zombie, and Eli Roth. And I think comparing him to his true contemporaries, which were those two guys, holy shit, James Wan is leagues, miles above them.
Mm.
Miles above them, and also the longevity of his career. There's a fucking like Conjuring verse out there. Like
Finding out that that was a thing blew my goddamn mind.
the guy's had
That
straight up bangers for decades. It's insane. Next up, someone who I
has
don't even know
never
how to.
committed murder, has never
Ah,
once committed murder, and has a storied, very good family. Has a very
oh.
good family.
John
His his
Landis, ladies
his
and gentlemen.
bloodline will become that of emperors. His
John Landis, most known for being a comedy and horror director, but an American Werewolf in London and the Twilight Zone film are his two most known movies, especially within the horror genre.
that's a word for it. Most
I'd
known.
be remiss not to mention that he is arguably responsible for the deaths of children right on the set of the
Yeah.
Twilight Zone movie. Um,
Yeah.
you know what, dude? Okay, I love An American Werewolf in London, and I think that John Landis did it so well, but no movie is worth dying
I
for, man.
I'm also just more familiar with his comedy than his horror, frankly. Like the first thing I think of when I think of him, aside from the obvious, is stuff like Animal House and Blues Brothers. Like I think of that pops in my head faster, frankly.
Basically, I think that if people died on your set, you should be punished for that in some sort of capacity. But An American Werewolf in London is great. It's just that John Landis, you know, not only was arguably a pretty irresponsible filmmaker, but he had a terribly annoying son, and I have to put him at D.
Annoying is a kind word for it.
You know, one of the videos that Jane and I did, someone in the comments was like, "You both remind me of Max Landis," and it was one of the most upsetting things.
But one of my favorite little pieces of YouTube movie culture lore is when he was on Red Letter Media, and then someone made a joke about Twilight Zone or some shit, and Jay had to act like he didn't think it was funny. And then as soon as Max Landis got outed and he was no longer on their channel, Jay just starts making jokes about it constantly. As soon as it's safe to do so, he's just frequently making jokes about his
Well,
dad.
even originally, he wasn't on their channel anymore because they didn't like one of his
They didn't like
movies.
him. Yeah. Oh yeah,
The
the
Jesse
picture.
Eisenberg one, American Ultra or something?
Oh, that one. I thought it was the Frankenstein movie. That's
They might
probably
not have
why.
liked several of his movies. But to move on, there's no question about Dario
Yeah,
Argento. Right
Dario's the
now,
goat.
he's at the very top of the S tier. Do you have a few words to say on Argento? What do you like most about Argento's movies?
God, I don't even. I mean, I talked you into talking about Tenebra at one point, but I think in general he's a lot smarter than people might give him credit for. Is kind of my initial thing I would say about him. I think people are liable to think of him as just a stylist who leans on pretty straightforward like Freudianisms in his
Mm,
movies, which fair enough, his movies are very Freudian. Like I don't think there's a more Freudian movie than like Tenebra. But and then stuff like Stendhal syndrome, which is a fucking masterpiece. But no, I think he's more than just a stylist. I think he's a fascinating filmmaker. I feel like all of his movies are so distinct from each other. Like you get really varying theses and thematic subject matters in like each
absolutely.
movie. Like
And
compare opera to Suspiria. They're like so different
and
despite
Suspiria is
clearly
so beautiful. I feel like you and I have talked
gorgeous.
about Argento an awful
Yeah.
lot, but my
Yeah,
favorite
I
Argento right now is definitely Deep Red. Deep
Deep
Red's
Red.
amazing, and
I
Deep
respect
Red,
that.
I think, is one of, because like you said, he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. There's this whole artistic commentary layer that I haven't really seen dived into too much. I was reading, like, some criticism of Deep Red, and they were talking about, like, the reason that he hired the main actor, his name I forget, who was in, Blow Up
Blowout. Blow up.
by Antonioni.
Antonio.
Like, the reason he did that was to have a dialogue within his films about, like, the more serious Italian films and his style of film, and,
Hmm.
to kind of I'm saying that Deep Red is partly a diss track towards Michelangelo Antonioni, and that makes it
I,
kind of dope.
yeah, I mean, he does share some visual sensibilities in that movie. There's this kind of weird lineage you can see. You're not gonna like this. Where Deep Red, I feel like makes visual allusions to Antonioni's style, and it
Mhm.
also has this like sparseness. That I mean, he tries to incorporate that into the into Tenebra because he said he envisioned Tenebra as set in a near future, kind of like Clockwork Orange and where the population is smaller, and that's why there's so few people in Tenebra and the streets are so empty. Deep Red kind of has that too, without that conceptual angle where there's not many people. But a lot of the visuals in that movie, Ridley Scott later cribbed for Hannibal, his movie Hannibal.
Oh,
There's a
yeah?
lot of visual references in Hannibal, I think, to Deep Red, and I think it tries to bring it all back to a similar commentary on like art history because Hannibal has a lot to say on that subject.
This
Uh, but it's just interesting to me, like that you can
for
get
sure.
so much out of Argento, and that he has gotten that respect that he deserves.
I think
Uh,
Argento makes beautiful horror films, that are incredibly bloody and beautiful and musical, and I think
music,
thoughtful.
yeah. God, I
But to
love
move on here, I'm just looking at these guys right now. Let me give you a full screen look, viewers. So these look like fucking like Pokemon evolutions of the same human being.
there.
And these are brand new directors, aren't they? Like comparatively.
Yeah,
First up, we have Ari Aster. You're a huge Ari Aster fan, and that's really why I
yeah.
asked you on
I
here.
once begged him to suck my dick, but
Didn't you really?
no.
Okay.
No, I begged him to let me suck his dick
Okay.
because I love him so much. I love his movies so much.
All right. All right. So where is he going?
S tier? No, I hate Ari Aster.
I
I
know
I
you hate
can't be
Ari.
that angry about him anymore.
I'm half
It's
and half
so
on him. Well, okay, your jokes are doing well with the chat. Okay?
good because I meant to say the second one first and I flubbed it.
It's fine. You flopped you flopped just like Midsummer flopped in my book.
I had
But
I
I
had a
like
flop era.
Hereditary. I know you don't like Hereditary. I think Hereditary's good. Didn't watch Beau is
I
Afraid, so, like,
I
I'm half and
think
half on the man.
I think Hereditary is pretty fine. I don't think it's like a smart movie, but I also think it's a largely like inoffensive movie. So I just don't have much to say about it. Like when I saw it, I thought it was fucking hilarious. I was like hooting and hollering, like the whole like set piece with the brownie in the car. Just like I was cracking the fuck up. I thought it was just a goofy movie by a goofy guy. He's just a weird guy. But Midsummer, I actually just like object to.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's like it. irresponsible movie per se, but that's because I think it's kind of hard to make irresponsible movies when you're the kind of when you're like an A24 for horror director. It's like, what kind of damage are you really gonna do? But
Uh,
like
I just
Midsummer is
talk.
just like a poor
It's
taste movie, is my
Yeah, and I think it's bad in every single way. Like every single decision that could possibly have been made in Midsummer to me was possibly the worst one.
yeah,
Compositionally, philosophically,
yeah.
horrifically, like like
Yeah.
within the frameworks of the genre. But Hereditary is funny. It is.
Again, the horror comedy. It's like when um Toni Collette talks in that movie. It's fucking hysterical.
I think her performance is better than you do, but like
Yeah,
it's
I don't
good.
care for it too much, but I think it's entertaining.
And
It's the beginning of her flop era.
I always appreciate seeing Gabriel burn. But
Yeah, that's respectable. That's respectable. I feel
that
like
said, I think End of the Sea tier because like I've only seen
I won't
one.
argue. I
I
won't
mean, I've only
argue.
seen one that I like. I haven't want. I'm not. I don't think I can do Beau is Afraid. That's 3 hours of like. Uh,
I kind of want to watch it just for the sake of being feeling
it
like I'm
looked a
caught up
lot
with
like a
current movies.
Kaufman movie to me. It looked like a
That's why I didn't want to watch it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But this next guy, hopefully
Tell
you
me
can
who
talk
that is,
about
because I
more.
cannot figure out who I'm looking at here.
Please tell me you know something about Ty West because I've only seen House of the Devil. Really? You
Maybe,
haven't you
wait,
haven't watched X or Pearl?
because I always mix up House of the Devil with a completely different movie.
Because I haven't
No.
seen X or Pearl. How you doing, YG?
No,
I'm glad you finally made it to one of these streams. All right, chat.
um, I kind of wanted to watch X all last year, but every single time I almost talked myself into it, I just kept thinking I could just watch Texas Chainsaw or Texas Chainsaw 2, and I don't know. That's super uncharitable. That's super uncharitable, but
Oh,
I don't know. I just
all
couldn't
right.
inspire myself. There were all these other horror movies coming out that I was like more interested in watching, or other movies in general I wanted to watch, and it's like I don't know how to inspire myself to watch a movie that looks like I will have the most like medium quality reaction to.
All right, chat. I defer to you.
Yeah,
Somebody tell me
where's
where
Ty
Ty
West?
West should go. He's competent. I find West overrated and then competent. So is it C for competent?
This sounds like C.
I've seen X and Pearl. People seem to think Pearl is better. Not really a fan of either.
This is a
You
democracy. This currently what I hope it's going well on the toilet, my friend.
oh man, that's some Coppola behavior.
Yeah, that's
Same. I
Nicolas
talked
Cage.
myself out of watching X. I don't know, to be honest. I thought I was like out of the loop, like severely. I thought more people had seen these movies.
It's one of those things that like A24 is trying to make it a thing, but it like artificially, like the Ty Westvert X universe. It's like that time when like Netflix posted that screenshot from some fucking show where Ed Sheeran's getting carried off, and he's like, "I'm Ed fucking Sheeran," and they wrote the iconic line. It's like that line was not iconic to anyone. They're trying to make it iconic. That's what
Right.
Ty West's like universe makes me think of. Like they're like the interconnected universe that you all loved, and they only love it because you're telling us we love it. Like that's the only reason it
Oh
exists.
man. Well, I put him worse than Ari because neither of us have seen it. Scorsese loves Pearl.
Scorsese loves a lot of things. I don't. He's an old man. He's doing all right.
There's an element of West that reminds me of Zach's analysis of the early 2000s Dark Castle / Return era.
So
So
it
you're
sounds like
saying
he's S
S. You're
tier.
saying I
S
should put him
tier.
in S.
We should put him over everyone else.
I'm glad
Is what
that
I'm gathering.
I'm glad you watched those Dark Castle analysis videos. I love Dark Castle. I have one Dark Castle director on here near the end because I had to represent Dark Castle somehow. But I think I have to keep them at the end of C. I put together this list with the hopes that
I
Isabel
would
could
fill in
fill
the
in
blank.
my blind spots. Yeah.
X does sound like a movie I would watch. To be fair,
X looks like a movie I would watch. And
yeah,
I just didn't. But this next guy, I'm gonna be a bit charitable. I'm gonna put
B.
Robert Eggers at the end of B.
I would be more kind about that if he wasn't next to Todd Browning.
He won't be for long. There's gonna be someone who mixes it up, and Todd Browning, I was gonna put it like C or D originally.
Fuck yourself.
Oh
But
no.
Eggers, I have no real complaints. I don't think he's the best, but I'm also not opposed to him. I like The Witch. I like The Witch.
The Witch
Uh,
is beautiful. The
yeah.
Lighthouse isn't bad, but The Witch is, I think, so excellent. The
I
Northman was cool too, in my
I
opinion.
didn't
It's not a
see it.
horror movie, but
I didn't. I couldn't really muster the interest to see The Northman. It didn't like get my attention as much. But The Lighthouse I thought was funny. I just wasn't really into it. But
I think The
it's
Witch
the
is just that good to me.
yeah,
I think
The Lighthouse was one of those movies where I like literally felt like I would could tell you everything that was going to happen in the movie before it started. Like I was like I can probably guess
right.
that final shot with the light in the house, and it's like you get. But the Witch is very good. We love New England representation. Uh, that is what it's like. That was what my childhood was like in Massachusetts.
I think out of he has the he has the benefit of appearing directly after Ari Aster and Ty West, probably because I'm like Robert Eggers shows so much potential, you know, like compared to to Ari Aster, Robert Eggers intrigues me. I'll look into a film that he's making, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think The Witch is great. Why begin? And that's The
Good
Witch is
movie.
mostly why he's at B. So
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. It's a good movie. I quite like it.
John Carpenter, ladies and gentlemen,
S tier.
S tier, yes.
S
Where
tier.
above Juan, but is he above Argento?
I'm
In
a,
my book,
I would put him above Argento personally, but I understand if not. It's hard to complain if you don't. But
I'm thinking. But Carpenter's excellent. What is there to say about Carpenter? That you and I have done a couple of videos about Carpenter. We've
yeah,
covered In the Mouth of Madness. We've also covered Vampires.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, Vampires might be my least favorite of his I've seen, and even that movie's excellent. Like I think
I
that movie rocks.
Vampires is really rad.
Um, I I I love everything I've watched from him. Even the ones that don't get enough love, like Escape from LA, that's a motion
Oh,
picture.
I hate
That's
Escape from LA.
that's a
Yeah, he's staying
fucking
behind
picture.
Dario. I hate Escape
But
from LA. I love
but but
that video that was circulating film Twitter for a while of him, John Carpenter, attending a convention, and somebody in the audience was like, "What were you thinking with Escape from LA?" And he said, "Fuck you. That's a good movie."
it's like that interview with Ridley Scott where they say Robin Hood was kind of bad. He's like, "Hey, go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. No, no, I mean it. Go fuck yourself. That's Carpenter. Like I
No, the reason I'm gonna put him behind Argento is that I don't think he's ahead of Juan, obviously, but behind Argento, there's
I do think it's interesting that like Carpenter isn't the kind of guy I typically like in horror, but I love him so much. Like
he's
he's
missing that philosophical edge for me. Like the
oh, I
philosophy I'm
disagree
able to
on
pick
that.
up from Carpenter outside of like Halloween, where I think that the philosophy is pretty great. I think
Prince
that
of Darkness is all that, but
I mean I like the psychology of both those movies, but I remember having a lot of issues with, In the Mouth of Madness, Vampires. If it's there, it's not normally something that I find sophisticated. Not that horror should be a genre that's purely sophisticated. And also, Argento's not a purely sophisticated director either. It's just that his psychology is also damaged and really scary to interact with.
yeah, I don't know. There's Carpenter reminds me more of someone like Kubrick than he does someone like Romero, for example. Like like
I think
there's that side
Romero's
of
better. I think that Romero's politics
I
are
might
far more
agree.
apparent, visible, felt, scary.
Actually, funny
Um,
enough, the next on the list, I think Carpenter has more in common with a guy like Cronenberg. Like he's more
mm,
conceptual, but
I
that said, I think he's the goat.
Nata
He's
Coppola says I tend to be overly critical of Carpenter's films. Um, I might be, but I have like a super fan like Isabel here when I'm normally talking about him, and She makes Carpenter sound a lot more interesting than he might be, but he's definitely at S right now.
He's so good.
Christine is a really
Christine.
underrated one.
And that one's weird because it doesn't have like any of what people tend to associate with like
The King, in my
or no,
opinion.
I was gonna say with Carpenter. It's a
You
very
think it's
not
mostly King?
Carpenterian. No, I think it's mostly Carpenter. I just think it doesn't have a lot of his usual
Right.
traits in there. Like it doesn't have a lot of like he's so consistent with his choices for like subject matters and protagonists and story flows, but and like Christine does something different from all of them. Like
Yeah.
story wise, that has nothing in common with Escape from Precinct 13 or Escape or sorry, Assault on Precinct 13, Escape from New York and stuff like that. Nothing in common with those
And no
movies.
one's bringing it up, but I think Ghosts of Mars is pretty dope.
It's so good. It's so
Yeah.
good. I love how it like a 40-minute section of the movie is just like Rashomon, and then it goes back to being Assault on Precinct. Like there's
But
like
a better Rashomon, obviously.
yeah, I will kill you. There's like there's like a no, it's more like a 30-minute section where it becomes like a story within a story within a story within a story, and it's like, all right, so that's basically what happened, and then the plot continues. It's such a weird movie, but I love. It was also supposed to be the third Escape movie.
Oh, it was?
So he was working for a while on Escape from Earth, I believe, and that was the so Ghost of Mars has its like seedy little origins in a Escape sequel to LA,
I can kind
but
of see it.
I forgot what the circumstances were, but I think after LA they just didn't really believe in the project, like the people giving the money for it.
I don't
And
blame them.
I know Kurt Russell really wanted to do it. I know he really wanted to do it.
Well, regardless, it's pretty cool.
But I think I like what we got. I like what we got. I also think
Hmm.
its interests are more interesting than what we might have gotten from Escape movie, but that's not horror related. So, well, I guess it kind of is ghosts, but regardless, Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness, Halloween, The Thing, all perfect. Love this guy.
I'm dying for a deep dive analyzing rappers in horror cinema, like Ice Cube. Is that why we're
Yeah,
talking about him? Yeah.
he is good
Why
in
are
that
you
movie.
dying for a deep dive of that? I'll Isabel and I will do it. We'll do a
I
deep
will.
dive. Isabel, yeah, it's your first
He
assignment.
he is really good in Ghost of Mars. He's really
Isabel,
good.
I want a deep dive of the career of rappers in horror cinema on my desk.
Who else has been in horror? There's
You sound very
what's that?
qualified for this job. This is good.
What's that movie? Bones.
Yes.
That
Yes, and
was,
it had
I've
like
heard that
Bianca
movie's good.
Lawson in it and everything. That was good.
Yeah, the movie's supposed to be good. I really want to watch it.
It's not bad.
I
But
I
okay.
started watching it once, but we weren't able to finish it because of circumstances not worth getting into. But like, I almost watched it. Regardless,
Regardless, 2 words. David Cronenberg.
uh,
Hey,
two
wait, hold
words.
on. Kid Cudi was in X.
He is. I remember hearing about that. Yeah, he is. He is.
So there you go. I think you can do a really good job with this deep dive. But David Cronenberg. Oh yeah,
Uh,
Busta Rhymes is in it. We can just change the title of the stream. We can
God,
just do this.
this,
Busta
the,
Rhymes was
the,
awesome in Halloween. He karate kicked fucking Michael Myers out a window in Resurrection. And LL Cool J was in H2O.
uh, God, this is a storied lineage. Now I see why they brought it up. I forget who
Yep.
brought it up, but you were a genius.
It was
You,
ML here.
ML, you are a genius.
Halloween was just boring. Was just a boring Black Christmas. I like Black Christmas a lot more. I wouldn't call
Nah,
Halloween boring, but
nah.
Black
I
Christmas I
shoot for
think is
Halloween. Black Christmas is
superior.
goaded. Black Christmas is incredible, but Halloween better.
ML Raw Digga was awesome in 13 Ghosts. She was amazing. All right,
I
ML.
gotta write this shit down.
You should watch 13 Ghosts if you haven't.
I
It's so
should.
good.
I want to.
Oh my
Cronenberg,
god,
though.
not a rapper, but Usher is in the faculty. Think we can
I
count?
always forget that because he has such a minor role in it.
But he still is
Like they
Usher.
slap him on the poster, and so when you first told me to watch that, I was like, "Oh, he's gonna have such an important role in this movie," and he like barely talks in it. But they put.
But it's like the cherry on top of a perfect movie is Usher being in The Faculty for some reason. But yeah, okay, we're doing good. We're doing good, chat.
Okay,
David
Cronenberg,
Cronenberg.
Jesus Christ himself.
um,
I love Cronenberg.
Obviously S. I
Yeah.
would put him above Carpenter, but I think Argento's still unbeaten right
Oh, I
now.
would of these guys, I would put Cronenberg first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. You don't have to, but that Crash changed my life.
Oh, Crash is so good. Dead Ringers is
Dead
fantastic.
Ringers. I
The
love
Brood I thought was great.
Crimes of the Future is far and away my favorite release of the past 5 years or
I
so.
haven't watched it still.
It's incredible. And I love Cosmopolis. I
It's good, but you know, no, it's not
the
that good. I think that Robert Pattinson's actually very bad in Cosmopolis.
no, he doesn't have enough to work with in what's that fucking movie? The stars, the map to the stars.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot to do in that one, but
I like
God,
Scanners a lot. I think I like most of Cronenberg's movies. I love Eastern Promises
Eastern
for a
Promises
late
is
Cronenberg.
so good, especially for like a movie that he wasn't really involved in the writing of.
Hmm.
That's kind of like a director for hire picture, and I think he kills it in that. I even love Naked Lunch. Naked
I
Lunch,
don't like Naked Lunch. Uh,
Existenz, I love.
I don't like Existenz either, but I like most of
Really,
his movies. I like most of them.
uh,
Um,
and Butterfly's very good, but not
it's
my favorite.
like we should really not trust a horror director that has never made a bad movie. We really shouldn't trust them.
I I'm just saying, if you dislike any Cronenberg movie, you're probably just transphobic.
Oh,
That's just the truth.
fair enough. You've
He's the
okay. You've charged me
every
with
one of
so
his
many
movies
things
is
this stream.
every one of his movies is just about a daily part of my life.
Yeah, we have a huge deep dive of Crash. Oh, why didn't either of us mention that The Flash is like amazing? I mean, sorry, The Fly, The Flash. My God, get me off of
Flash,
film Twitter, man.
you made my heart skip a beat. I thought I was in the Matrix for a second. I was like,
No, The
The
Fly
Fly
is
is very
great.
good. That was one of the first ones of his I saw though, and I haven't seen it since. And that was like
It's
5 years
excellent.
before I became properly like Cronenberg pilled. It was a long process. I saw like The Fly, I saw The Brood, I saw Videodrome, and I was like, yeah, he's pretty cool. And then I eventually realized he was goated, and I've started going back and watching all those movies to like see what I wasn't getting the first time. It took me a long time. For a long time, he was just the body horror guy to me. He's not as interesting as other stuff. Then I saw like Crash, and I realized I was underselling him severely.
And
But
Videodrome's beautiful. And that's
yeah,
it's such a good
Videodrome.
movie. Such a good
Yeah,
movie. Videodrome alone would get him into S for me. Like Videodrome,
yeah.
Crash, and Dead Ringers are incredible films.
Even
Incredible.
his like more minor works, like Dead Zone, I think is pretty good.
I
I
like
think
Dead Zone a lot.
yeah, it's very good. A History of Violence is good, but I think as far as like that 2000s mercenary period, I prefer Eastern Promises.
Same,
But
same.
History of Violence is good.
I mean, I think we could talk about like a dangerous method for a long time. I think we should
Oh,
get off,
so good.
right?
It's
Because that's
I'm
a
glad you
crazy
brought it
fucking
up. I
movie.
forgot. That movie's insane. No one in history has ever had more disdain for Jung
Yeah,
than
yeah. But yeah, if you want a more detailed kind of deep dive of Cronenberg from the two of us, check out our Crash video that we did. It should be
God, I
available
love
on the
Crash.
channel. Next is Tom Holland. He played Spider-Man, and I'm gonna put him. The sea is gonna get super crowded.
I feel like that's just the nature of the genre, and I think we've all made peace with that when we chose to get into this shit.
Yeah, I'm putting him at the top of C though because Fright Night's one of my favorite horror movies. If you
That
want to
is
talk
a
about
good movie.
so good.
I
I think that
I I
Child's
s-
Play is fun as well, but Fright Night, oh my God, I think it's a masterpiece. If you want to talk about like great queer horror movies, oh my God, Fright Night's amazing. Evil Ed's one of my favorite horror characters of all time. He's so good.
yeah, I think that's a great goddamn time, that movie. Fright
Yeah.
Night. I saw Blind at like a mystery showing, and I was like, this is so good. This is so erotic, like weirdly erotic.
And remember at the beginning of this stream where Isabel's like, "Oh, you hate Japanese filmmakers, blah blah blah." Takashi Miike is our first A director.
I
I
can
think he's
respect that.
great.
Mika is good. Mika is good. There's not much to complain about there. Yeah,
No,
he's
not at all, because he's actually good. Audition, I think, is flawless. He's going in the A category, and he has
I.
a career that has spanned so many varying different genres, but something
Oh
about his
yeah,
films always feel very horrific to me. I think he is pretty damn close to S tier.
my
But he's our first A. He's had a few flops for me.
fair enough given his
Yeah.
level of output.
Okay.
He makes like 7 movies a year or some shit. One of my best friends got me to watch Happiness of the Katakuris, I think it was called. And that
Hmm.
movie, they're like, she was like, yeah, it's really fun. And then I watched it, I was like utterly disturbed the whole time. And it's a musical. It's like a rural set musical about a family, but it's like darker than anything I saw in Ichi the Killer. It's like, have you seen it?
It's been a long time, I think.
There's that part where like a guy checks an incredibly overweight man who's middle age shows up with a little girl who he's like raping basically, and then he orgasms so hard he has a heart attack and falls on top of her and dies and she suffocates.
Oh wow.
This is something Takashi Miike made, and I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, this is horrifying. I was like, what the fuck? Ichi the Killer is rad as hell though. That movie kicks ass. Trying to think, I'm forgetting. So I think he made a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure movie, which is hilarious to imagine. And I think he did a remake of Harakiri too.
I think so. Hey, Isabel, vamp for 1 second.
Vamp? Are you asking me to freestyle? All right, guys. All right, guys. It's our show now. What do you want to talk about? You're so cool. I can see the chat. I can't make it show up on the screen, but I can see the chat. Child's Play and Fright Night make Holland at least B plus. He co-wrote Psycho 2. I want to see Psycho 2. I haven't seen it, but I think it looks very, very good. I really, really, really want to see it. Especially because I'm a big fan of Perkins. I think he's a super underrated actor. You guys should see a lot of his other movies. I do not have a channel. I'm on Twitter though. I'm always playing the Twitter game. Also Letterbox where I write, but that's it. I'm talking with the chat. Best horror I've seen recently. What's the best horror I've seen? Well, I watched Halloween 4 yesterday and I liked it way more than I expected to. You're muted, Zach. There you are.
Halloween 4 is amazing.
It's so good. I put it off for so long because I didn't think I was gonna like it.
I think it's like the better
Also, hi
version of Friday the
Natakoa.
13th Part 4. It's got like the
I can
same
respect
beats.
that. I put it off for so long because I expected those later or like mid-year Halloween sequels to have the same energy as the middle year like Friday sequels, and I watched Friday the 13th Part 6 like a few months back and I kind of hated it and I thought it was
The
just boring
Jason
as
Lives?
yeah.
The beginning where he turns into James Bond. It's amazing.
I think that's it. It's the one where like the kid from the last movie has gotten older now and he's trying to make sure Jason's dead. And
Yeah.
then yeah, I just thought it was boring as shit. But I like 4. I think 4 is pretty fun. But Halloween Part 4, I
Halloween Part
loved
4
it.
is like artful. And you saw like little Danielle Harris. Like I can't Rob Zombie, I'll deal with you in a fucking minute, bro.
Is he
Um
on here?
yes, he's on here. He might be like he's on here.
Oh
That'll be
yeah,
another
you missed this.
disappointment.
I was responding to this and saying uh I really want to watch Psycho 2. I haven't seen it, but
Psycho 2 is cool.
I'm a Perkins fan, so
I think you were answering this when I came back.
yeah, I said no, I do not. I'm on Twitter and Letterboxd instead.
Tom Holland also wrote The Beast Within, which is such a weird, twisted body horror.
I haven't
My
seen it.
Neighbor John Turturro. It's a pretty good name.
I use as a username sometimes my neighbor Joe Turo, so that's Zach won't get that joke, but I'm sure some of you will.
Oh, why won't I get that joke? I know what
It's a,
movies are.
It's an anime reference, that's
Yeah, I
why.
know it's an anime reference. You're acting like it's like a deep cut.
Just because sometimes I'll reference things and you'll be like, "What?"
Oh, okay.
Also,
My
I
neighbor.
just you never struck me as someone who likes anime.
I mean, I hate anime. I never
Yeah, see, there
watched.
you go.
I've ever watched My Neighbor Totoro or whatever it's called, but I've
No, I was
heard of
referencing
it.
JoJo's though.
No, I don't. I don't know what you're talking
See,
about anymore. Let's
see,
go back to
see. I was vindicated again. Vindicated
what do
again.
you know
All right,
about Julia DeCorno?
tell me a movie.
Raw, Titan,
It's
Titan.
pretty good.
Yeah,
Raw's pretty good. I enjoyed that. I never bothered to watch Titan or Titan. I didn't know
I
how
just
to
had
say
the
it.
same issue you ran into. I watched that and I thought it was really good, like Cronenberg-ish.
Yeah, I didn't watch it because like so many people were the way so many people I saw them describing it. I was like, it sounds like you're just describing Crash,
Yeah,
and I've
but
already seen Crash, so it's like, why do I want to see someone else do it again,
so will
even
you
if it's
defer to
good?
me for this judgment? I'm gonna put
I'll
her at the
defer to
end
you,
of.
but Raw is good. I cannot deny, and based on Raw, I think B tier is a good answer. Like that was
I
a well
agree,
directed.
ML. I think that the film was pretty fascinating. I think Isabel would really like it,
I am nothing
personally.
if not uncharitable. I famously will not choose not to watch a movie for the most mundane and inconsequential of reasons.
I'm
So
putting her at the end of the B tier because so far, very interesting, even fascinating career, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Next
we
up,
also need more hype.
what's your opinion on Fulci?
He's great. He's awesome. Who doesn't love Fulci?
I think Fulci is great. Do you think A or B though?
Personally, I would do S, but if I have
You're
to,
not doing F. You're not
if
going
I
F.
have to, if I have to haggle over it, I choose A, and I
Okay,
would put
yeah,
him
you have to
over
haggle over
Miche.
it. He's not going to S. You're drunk. He's
I'll
not
put him
going to
over
S.
A. Have you seen Zombie? Have
Yes,
you seen The Beyond?
the
Oh, and
Beyond's really good.
I watched New York Ripper recently. So good, so good. Oh, Fulci's a fucking painter. He is so
He's
good.
great. He's
He's
great.
so
A
good.
is like an incredible place to be. A is
Yeah,
really good.
he is so good. I Fulci was a more recent like thing I got into in the past like I'd say like year or two.
Hmm.
More like 2 years ago. I finally started doing the deep
Well,
dive. I'd seen Zombie and loved it,
he
but
was legendary to me, right? Because I think growing up as a cinephile who was interested in horror, you saw posters for Zombie 2 or whatever, like everywhere.
yeah.
And like I remember I knew the poster by heart, but I hadn't seen the movie for like until 10 years into my
Hmm.
cinephile journey. But great stuff.
My favorite is City of the Living Dead, though. That movie is fucking awesome.
I don't even think I've seen that one.
It's the final part, I think, of the trilogy. So like trilogy, they're not actually connected, but I think they all have the same lead actress. But Beyond, House by the Cemetery, and City of the Living Dead, it's either the second or the third, I think. Um, it's really good. It's really good. It's like cosmic horror. It's very Lovecraftian. It's
Right
if you're
on.
into that kind, it's kind of like Prince of Darkness or something like that, but applied to a whole town. It's very interesting.
And Jason, I thought about putting Osgood Perkins on here because I really loved the Black Coat's Daughter,
That's a
but
good movie, but that's a good movie.
I
I
just
just
don't. I don't
don't.
know why I didn't put him on here. I probably should have because Black Coat's Daughter is so damn good, and being a sort of newish horror director, if you want to call him that, like he's pretty great. So that's a good pull, Jason. Just honorable mention that I forgot to include here. This next guy, uh, I know that Isabel doesn't recognize, but we've covered him together on the channel.
Tell me
Um,
the name.
Steve Miner. Do you know who it is yet? He did. Uh,
I know what he did.
he did a movie
He
I
did
really like.
Warlock. Yeah, Warlock. We all love Warlock.
He's not at the beginning of the C tier, but he's above Legionnaire. I really
I
like
I
Halloween H2O. I think that
I do
Friday the
not.
13th Part 2 is excellent. I think Friday the 13th Part 3 is okay, but Part 2 is excellent. I think Halloween H2O is a really cool experiment with Michael Myers within this kind of postmodern framework. And most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, he directed the pilot episode of Dawson's Creek. So he's not going in the D. He's going in the
I
C. Good. And
I
he made House as well, the one that's not bad. So the American movie called House.
I'll kill you. I do not like H2O, but I do think Warlock is fun.
You
So
do?
yeah, it's fun. It's a silly movie. It's very silly, but
H2O is fucking fun. I don't care. H2O is really fun. I like H2O just as much as Halloween 4, to be honest. Guillermo del Toro. What are we thinking with Guillermo?
B, C or B. I like Guillermo. He's not like my favorite, but he's got such a pleasant energy, and I also just like Pan's Labyrinth and The Devil's
Yeah,
Backbone.
he's got a great amount of skill. Pan's Labyrinth and Devil's Backbone are very
He,
good. And then when he wants
he's
to
one of
be a
those.
bit more I wouldn't call Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth inaccessible, but like Blade 2 and Hellboy are also great horror action movies, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I agree. I agree.
your intrepid commentator. H2O is fun, and I don't like the Halloween franchise. See, we're right. Isabel here is wrong. H2O is really fun. I think it's really good.
Just remember,
All
Zach
great points
disagrees
why
with.
Steve Miner is no lower than B. You know what? You talked me into it. Where is he? Going right up
Just
to the
remember,
B.
anytime Zach disagrees with me, it's misogyny.
No, it's not. It's fucking. It's just right. That's the only word for it. Is all great points why Steve Miner is no lower than B. Chat talked me into it. H2O and Dawson's Creek are really great.
I can respect it.
But okay, Guillermo, I also think is B. Above Eggers
I think
and
that's fair.
Todd Browning.
And now I'm going to kill myself.
He's better. I don't know what else to say. He's just so much better. Todd Browning can never make a movie that's as moving as The Devil's Backbone. So
Made like 7. Regardless, Guillermo is great. I love his energy. He's a fun
this
guy. He's a fun guy. I haven't seen Shape of Water though.
fucking
Who?
guy.
The King.
Kiyoshi Kurosawa.
So good. Although my favorite of his movies isn't a horror movie. So
Sounds like D material.
I love Charisma. Charisma is such a good movie.
Something his
But
films completely lack.
come on, Loft is so good. Seance.
You're the guest. I'm gonna defer to you. He can go anywhere but the S. Where are you gonna put him?
A.
A. All right.
But he's
What
so
do you like
good.
most about Kiyoshi Kurosawa?
He's part of a lineage of directors I'm pretty interested in because he's like the first guy, especially like he started doing this in the 90s and 2000s before anyone gave a shit. He was one of the first guys to cape for Hooper being a director worth studying and thinking about. And you see that influence a lot. He's a huge fan of spontaneous combustion and life force, especially. I know that much. And he and Hooper both take a lot of influence from Richard Fleischer, who's probably should be here, but it's fine because he's easy to forget. But he's an interesting guy, Richard Fleischer.
Remind me of who the fuck he is.
He did Soylent Green.
Ah,
You would know him for. And
okay.
Red Sonja, I think he did a Conan sequel.
Then why would he be here?
He's done a bunch of horror movies as well. He did like See No Evil, which is about a blind woman home alone.
Man, I haven't even.
He's influence on Boston Strangler, which is my favorite.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay, never mind.
yeah, Kiyoshi is influenced by that, and he's done a lot of writing on it. You see influence all over the place in his movies. He's got a really wide array of influences, and I just love how his movies feel plot wise, like the way the plots move. They never really go where you expect them to go. They're so interesting. Like the movie you start is not the movie you're with at the end. It becomes a completely different movie by the end, and I love that about his work.
Fair enough.
It's so interesting.
Fair enough. Okay, you've spoken about Kiyoshi for as long as you are allotted. Let's go to the comments. H2O is the last good Halloween film and a proper ending. I agree. I think anyone who likes Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie is probably the biggest loser in the world. Um, I have a video on my channel that's a Halloween 2 analysis video, and it's one of the I'm actually not in all of my videos if you haven't seen.
I think that's the only one you're not in.
No, Jane also has an analysis of Hedwig on my channel.
You posted on your channel? What the fuck? I didn't know that. Or if I did, I forgot.
Well, I didn't mind. It's fine by me. But there's a whole analysis of Halloween 2 that Isabel and Jane from Stylus Substance
By
did.
some bitches, you know. The
Jordan
girls
Peele.
took
So
over.
I've only seen Us by Jordan Peele, and I thought it was very good. I know that you've seen all of his films, so I have to defer to
I
you on this.
I think B is fair. I don't know. I think he has the potential to go higher though, like as his career goes on. It's just that as of right now, he only has 3 movies, and of those, I'm not a big fan of Us. To be fair, I might just have to watch it again, but I
I
wasn't a big
remember
fan of
liking
Us.
it a
But
lot.
I really liked Get Out when it came out. I thought it had some issues, but I felt like for a debut feature, I was like, this rocks. And then Nope, I loved. I didn't expect to either. I went in with like pretty mild expectations after Us, but Nope, I thought was fantastic.
Mm.
I really liked that movie. So I think B is pretty fair at this point in his career.
Like, who do you like more, Eggers or Peele?
Oh, Peel, easy.
All right, so that's where
He's
he
better
goes.
than yeah, he's way better than Eggers, I think. He's more interesting. He's got more ideas.
I trust your opinion on this. So,
Yeah.
and I thought Us definitely showed a remarkable amount of skill. So I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if both Get Out and Nope are also equally as good.
I think he would like Nope a lot. I do. I think of like those 2 movies, I think you'll really fuck with Nope.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. William Castle, ladies and gentlemen.
Ooh.
Um, he's a tough one to place. We have a couple tough ones to place
Yeah.
because they're kind of notorious not for being good filmmakers, right? Maybe even for being the opposite. William Castle was known as a great showman. You know, he'd have a lot of
Yeah.
gags, 3D glasses, or primitive versions of 3D glasses with his original 13 Ghosts. My favorite is Mr. Sardonicus, where he himself would appear at the end of the movie and go, "All right, audience, do you want the good ending or the bad ending? Do we punish this character or do we reward this character? Do we kill him or not?" And the the trick is that he only ever filmed one version of that, which is the bad ending. So every single time it would be the bad ending, no matter what the audience thought they were going to say. You know, the audience had absolutely no
Yeah.
input there. But his films, I mean, House on Haunted Hill, the original, there's not much composition of which to speak. But I mean, so he's difficult to place. But I mean, any horror list would be vacant
Lost.
without William Castle here. Um, I think I got to put him at the end of the C tier, probably.
Fair.
And
I
even
would
that,
put him
yeah.
over above Aster, but
Well, it got to be above Ty West because we don't know apparently who the fuck Ty West is really. Um,
something about ranking and judging a director we know nothing of.
we got to, man.
We're operating entirely on vibes. Like,
This is a vibes based tier. Look at
yeah,
John Landis, fucking so.
I don't like his haircut. We're putting him here. Like,
Oh, John Landis is so lonely down there. He's gonna
wait,
have company soon. But this next
oh
guy,
no,
I don't think will be in the D slot. His name is Mario Bava.
I would kill you if you did. But yeah,
Where would you put Mario Bava?
I feel A might be fair. That's just me. He's not like
Yeah.
a god to me as he is to some people, I think, but I am quite fond of him. I love the what's it called? The whip and the body.
Um,
Um
Black Sunday.
yeah,
Mario
it's not
Bava is
I
excellent.
it's debatable whether you count it as a horror movie, but I really like Planet of the Vampires. Um more of like a slightly higher budget Star Trek episode, but I really like those 2 movies. And Blood and Black Lace, obviously. He it's I hate to be one of those guys that says like he set the stage for what Argento would perfect, but that kind of is how I feel about it to some extent. But
No, I think
that
that's totally fair. No, I think that's very fair.
because a lot of people I know shoot for him as like the blueprint, as like the guy, you
And I would
know.
actually like I would agree. I mean, he's at A, which is a huge place to be.
Yeah,
So Herschel Gordon Lewis, ladies and gentlemen, Herschel Gordon Lewis, director of Blood Feast, The Gore Girls, and like 2000 Maniacs. I love this man. I got into him because I was reading a lot of John Waters books, and John Waters obviously loves this man. Blood Feast is
does he?
amazing. He's known notoriously though as like a terrible filmmaker. Like Blood Feast is mostly known for being a terrible movie, and a terrible and terribly bloody and gory movie. I think he's great though. I think I have so much fun with his movies.
I've only seen 2000 Maniacs, and I thought it was pretty boring.
Really, I thought 2000
Uh,
Maniacs was awesome.
I don't know. Maybe it was my mood. I just couldn't get into it at the time, but
Well, to me, he's another William Castle type. And I'm gonna
fair
put him
enough.
a bit ahead of him because people definitely talk about composition when they talk about Herschel Gordon Lewis. Normally in like an Ed Wood kind of way, but still they talk about composition. And I think Blood Feast is an awesome movie. And Gore Girls is insane. Clive Barker. I think if we were doing like novels and writers and stuff, S tier pretty easily. We're talking films though. Hellraiser, I think, is a pretty well composed and directed film. I have,
Absolutely.
yeah, I have my issues with Nightbreed though. I think there are a lot of problems with the composition. Um, Master of Illusion's another one he made. There's quite a bit of problems with Clive Barker, but there's so many amazing ideas and visuals that stay in your head like forever. And his story is obvious. Like since we're starting at a foundation of Barker, his stories are always hitting. Um, I don't know much about Jordan Peele, but I'm putting him above Guillermo del Toro and behind Hitchcock on the beat here.
I
Um,
can respect that.
and I think Clive Barker is um, a very very good mind within the horror genre. He lacks a few qualities as a director, but you know what? He kind of reminds me as horror's version of Jean Cocteau in a couple ways. He's a bit of a renaissance man. He's very good at writing, but he's not necessarily a master at anything, but he's just very skilled at most things that he tends to try to do. And now we have our bro, Eli Roth.
He's certainly my bro. Eli's great.
I
He's
think
like
Eli is
a
pretty good.
he's like a modern day William Lustig. He's just a guy doing movies with titles like, uh Hostel or like Green Inferno. He's doing the equivalent of movies like Maniac or Uncle Sam. Like he's got a Thanksgiving slasher coming out soon, He's just like a guy doing
Is
like
that based off
grindhouse
his Grindhouse trailer that he made?
possibly. I don't
It has
know.
to be. It
But
has to
he's
be.
he's like doing grindhouse movies but like very sincerely. Like it's not like a joke. It's not like a pastiche thing. Like I think he's actually just making the kinds of movies that say like someone like Tarantino references, which is
Well,
I don't know.
I
Like
legitimately
Hostel.
think that like The Green Inferno and Hostel are both very good horror movies.
I
I
agree.
legitimately
I
think that.
agree.
I think
That's
Cabin
what I
Fever
mean.
isn't a bad debut. I think Cabin Fever has a decent amount of charm to it. Hasn't
Hmm.
aged too well. Decent amount of charm to it. But Hostel and The Green Inferno, I think, are legitimately good horror
Very
movies.
they're gross. They're spicy. They got that like right balance of I don't know, like the kind of politics you would see in those types of movies in the 80s, especially in Green Inferno. Green Inferno is just like towing the line of like, is he a little reactionary? Is he not? Is he
Oh, he
actually kind
is.
of
I think that's why he's a bro. He's a bro. Like there's no other way to like Hostel is extremely reactionary.
yeah, there's like so many jokes in Green Inferno that like at like making fun of like liberals and shit, which
Why are
is like
you
I'm like,
going
is he?
protesting? Activism's gay, something like that,
Yeah,
right?
like, but then like I think he actually is a liberal, so it's like
Well,
I don't know.
the blonde from the beginning who said that, like, she's the only
He
smart character in the
fucking
whole
died.
movie.
And I actually really like Knock Knock. Again, like a movie that is like kind of reactionary, kind of awesome.
Can't
It
necessarily get behind Knock Knock, but Eli Roth, okay, though.
I go B if we're being fair, but he's the kind of B or
Fair.
C
If we're
tier
being
director.
charitable, if we're being
I
charitable, not
I
fair.
think I think C or B if
Yeah.
he is one of those two. He's like the epitome of what I love about C or B tier directors, you know? Like he is the C or B tier director I seek out specifically because he's in that tier.
You know
You know
what?
what I
Right in the
mean?
middle of B, because I really enjoy Hostel and Green Inferno. And when I was
And
a kid, I thought Cabin Fever was awesome when I was like 13. I thought it was awesome.
I also want to see Death Wish. And see that's what I mean.
Oh
Like
yeah, with
he's
Bruce
the
Willis.
only guy he's the only guy making shit like that and not having it be kind of like Ty West, as far as I can tell from like something like X, is that it's like an homage to like Hicksploitation slashers. Eli Roth would make a Hicksploitation slasher. Like it's not an homage to it.
Which
He's
is what
actually just
Cabin Fever
doing it.
almost was.
Yeah, like that's what he does. Like Death Wish is not an homage to Charles Bronson type movies. He wants to make a Charles Bronson type, and I respect that. I respect that.
And
Like
I
a
think he engages properly. Like he's a good student of horror, and he engages
yes,
fully. Like when he does Hostel or when he does, his cannibal horror movie, he engages directly with the text, with the politics of a cannibal holocaust, or with Hostel of the political condition of the time when the movie came out, 2004, right? Like he dealt
yeah.
directly with it. Like he's a director who does believe in subtext, however however much we want to argue,
Well,
subtle he
that's
is.
why that's why I say it's not a joke to him. Like people might
Yeah.
think it's a joke to him. It's not a joke to him. He doesn't like he might think some of it's funny. Like there's a
Like
lot of comedy in his movies, but like he doesn't think the genre itself is the joke.
it's really
You
his
know,
persona that gets in the way of people acknowledging how intelligent some
he's
of
an
his movies can be. His persona is so damn fucking broy. It's so frat broy.
yeah.
Like, but I
I
think that
do
just like how Dario Argento is smarter than so many people give him credit for, Eli Roth is as well, but nowhere near enough to be in the S tier of filmmakers.
I
Um,
also just think he's such a nerd for the genre and I admire that. Like he's
oh yeah,
just a
yeah,
dork
yeah.
about it. He's a
That's why
fucking
that's why I
dork
called
about
him
it.
like a student of the genre, and I think he's a very
Yeah.
good student. Like he paid attention when he watched Cannibal Holocaust. He paid attention when he watched Toby Hooper films. He paid attention.
Yeah, I mean, compare that to like someone like Ari Aster, where I'm sure if you asked him his favorite directors, it would be guys like Kubrick and Ridley Scott. And it's like, who does Eli Roth like? And I'm like, I'm sure he's gonna say like
Fulci.
Toby Hooper, Fulci, George Romero, Don Coscarelli. I'm having a moment. Larry.
I've heard him talk about Brian De Palma, of course, and I think Tarantino
Yeah,
is probably one of his favorite ones, right?
probably. I mean, they're friends, so it's hard to say, but it.
But let me pick your brain for a second here. What do you think of Roger Corman? Roger Corman is
Oh,
not
he's
here.
awesome.
You
He's
like
awesome.
Corman?
My favorite though of his is The Trip by which is
Oh,
like it's the
didn't even
one
know
with like Dennis Hopper
yeah,
and
I didn't know he
Peter
made that.
Fonda. Yeah, he did.
Maybe because it's actually well put together.
It's extremely well put together. I love that movie. I also like The Mask of the Red Death, but my favorite is The Trip. I just think it's so good. It's so
Yeah.
fun.
If
It's
Corman
so
were
fun.
here, where would you have put him?
B. But I also need to see more, because
I
like
would
I
have put
think
him C.
he's like an artist of that realm. Like he is the artist of guys who make movies about like 50-foot tall women or like giant
Right.
ants destroying Los Angeles. Like he is the D.W. Griffith of guys that make giant bug movies. He is the guy. Like there is no other guy. It's just Roger Corman. And he's gonna live forever. He's gonna outlive both of us. So.
I'm doing a horror challenge, so I appreciate some of these directors and titles I'm unfamiliar with. That's
Well, I
awesome.
have one director for you then that you should explore who's
Ooh.
next on our list.
Oh, okay, definitely. Yeah, no, I'm glad you're getting something out of this live stream. I absolutely adore the first Hostel and the opening of Hostel 3. I have not watched Hostel 3. I've
I
watched the
haven't even
first 2
seen
Hostel
2.
movies, though, and I love Hostel 1. Hostel 2 is not terrible,
I
it's not
haven't
a
seen
terrible movie. But, start us off with Toby Hooper while I put him in the S spot ahead of Dario Argento.
it. Best director of all time.
Well, right now,
I,
he's at the very top.
I'm in the wrong room, but in my bedroom I have a spontaneous combustion poster. Yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy. Who else like on this list like makes horror movies influenced by Vincent Minnelli? And Poltergeist is a Vincent Minnelli homage movie. And dude, yeah, he is either my favorite or like my second favorite director. He's
Um, Texas
yeah,
Chainsaw Massacre is
yeah,
one of my top 3 favorite
yeah.
horror movies ever. Top 3 horror movies ever, in case anyone forgot, are, Scream, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and, Dawn of the Dead. So,
I,
hey,
he
speaking of, he's the next on the list, but Toby Hooper, we're not gonna leave him just yet. He's so good. He's
he's so
so
good.
fucking good.
I Texas Chainsaw is my favorite, but more out of loyalty. I think his actual best might be Funhouse. Just
I
because.
love Salem's Lot.
Oh, me too. It's so good.
Yeah. I'm really
That
into, like, the
again, it's
structure of television, and I feel like Toby Hooper may have invented the perfect structure for miniseries. Like,
he
just did
did.
it.
And that movie is so interesting because that's where you really see his influences. I've said many times that I think he would have thrived being a Hollywood director of like the 40s and 50s, and he was just
Mm,
born too late to be in that era. He would have thrived in that era, and I think you see that in Salem's Lot because Salem's Lot is directed like a indoor drama of that
right.
era. It's the way he does compositions in Salem's Lot is so fucking interesting. It also is one of my favorite images in his career, which is Kurt Barlow being like just a blanket on the ground or like the cape, and
Mm,
then it grows into a person. And the whole final act, which is where he returns to Texas Chainsaw Massacre,
yes.
it's like the haunted house, which
It is
is
so
itself a
good,
return to his first movie, Eggshells, which is his first movie about a bad
which I
house.
haven't seen. I have
Yeah,
not
it's
seen it.
it's the first bad house Toby Hooper movie. Like all of his movies kind of are, and all of his movies are about children or families or homes and stuff like that. And God, Salem's Lot is just so good. I
I'm
love
not
Kurt Barlow.
I'm not sure where we would have talked about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Probably in the video we have about the 2003 remake. We most likely talked
Yeah,
about the original,
we did.
which, not to go into it too much here, but it's this ultra violent reaction to Vietnam,
Hmm.
honestly, and it's terrifying, and even that is limiting the film. But
Yeah,
I would go watch that video if you want to know a bit more, have a bit more insight about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and what we think of it. It's so important. It is so beautiful too,
it's
and anarchic, and chaotic, and relentless, and I
kind
think
of
pretty
mythic.
gorgeous too, and disgusting at the same time. It's got multitudes.
I do feel that like discussion of Chainsaw and the much less fun discussion of the Poltergeist fiasco. Toby directed it. Those two discussions kind of cast a shadow over the rest of his work. Which it happens, it happens when you have a movie as influential as Texas Chainsaw. But you could tell if you watch like interviews with him later in life, when people ask him like, "Oh, answer this question about Texas Chainsaw," he's like, oh, "Okay, fine." But then it's just like you ask him about Night Terror, and he's like, "Oh yeah," he gets so excited when you ask him about anything else that he made that's not
Yeah,
Texas Chainsaw, like Life Force. Who doesn't love Life Force?
Life Force.
The horniest movie ever made.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's what it's known for primarily, which, I can't argue with.
It's so good. I want
I
to see
sure
it on the
like
big screen.
who was the star of Life Force? I sure like her. She was great.
An 18-year-old, I
All right,
forget
fuck off.
what country she was,
Matilda
European.
May or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Way to make me feel weird. But if you're asking me, because obviously Isabel shared her thoughts on Poltergeist, I think it's high mid Hooper.
Oh, I agree with that.
Um,
I agree with that completely.
there's something really interesting about it. Yeah, it sucks having discourse about Poltergeist because it normally devolves into Spielberg discussion.
Yeah,
So,
I
but that's
I
not
think
really Hooper's fault.
I think there's a lot of interesting directorial choices that are more interesting than the actual text of the movie. Like I love the long takes in Poltergeist. I think there's a lot of long takes in that movie that are I feel are references to movies like Mimi and St. Louis that are really interesting. But the text is
So,
it, yeah, mid.
so to go to the comment on screen, I've never seen Race with the Devil. Have you? It looks like it's a Peter Fonda movie. It's a horror action movie. It's called on Google. I've never seen it before in my life.
I haven't either.
Do you recommend it, Jason?
Should I watch it?
Yeah, should we watch it? We just brought up Peter Fonda with The Trip, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. If it's worth watching, let us know. And you love Mask of the Red Death. See? There we go. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A lot happening in those last few frames. Vietnam, Watergate, the invention of the pill, Nixon, the last
I
frame
like
with
that.
Sally. Aren't we all running from chainsaws in our past? Exactly. So what I was saying was limiting
Yeah,
it. But I'm glad that you brought it mostly into full focus here. There's so much going on in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's horrific, and it's very confrontational, like you're saying, and also like disgusting and beautiful. Because I think that one of the most beautiful images in all of horror movies is also its most horrific, which is chainsaw, Leatherface dancing
dancing.
chainsaw. The very final frames of what you're talking about right here. Not a Coppola. I think you're spot on. Absolutely. There's so much complexity to that film, and a lot of that complexity can be transferred over to Hooper's best movies.
Yeah,
Who is next? All right. I don't care
the
what you're
God.
saying. He's going to the top of my S tier.
No, I mean he deserves S tier. Romero.
He deserves S tier. I think Dawn of the Dead is amazing.
My
Night of
favorite is
Living Dead.
Martin.
You like Martin. I know your favorite's Martin, and I like Martin. I gave you shit about Martin before, but I like Martin.
It's so good.
I only
Uh,
gave you shit because it's like your favorite. And Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead, I think, are all a lot better than Martin.
I love Day of the Dead. I think it's very entertaining. And Dawn of the Dead is obviously
I think
classic.
Land of the Dead's pretty entertaining too. I love
I
Ozzy
haven't seen
Argento,
it.
and John Leguizamo in Land of the Dead is fucking incredible. He's so cool in
I
that
haven't seen
movie.
that.
I love George Romero. He's going to S for me because you know what? I might be biased, and I think I agree with his politics. I think when I watch his movies, I can't help but agree with his thesis. I can't help but agree with almost everything I'm shown, even though what I'm being shown is like terribly horrific and scary and cautionary. I
Oh,
love his zombies.
the Crazies is really
Yes,
fun,
it's
and
great.
so is the Dark Half.
It's
Those are
great. I think that Romero. I wouldn't say he's fallen out of favor, but he does tend to get lost in the shuffle lately.
I agree with
Um,
that. Yeah.
like when people remember that Romero exists, they're like, "Oh yeah, one of the greats." But he doesn't get brought up as quickly as he used to before, and I think that's a shame. I think he's so incredible, and just like Toby Hooper, well, just like most of the people on this S tier, outside of Argento, they're like pretty like approachable. I would think as well. I like their vibes since we're doing a vibe check. I think I think that Romero's vibes totally fit in with the S tier. Dawn of the Dead, one of the best horror movies ever made.
I'm not the biggest fan of Creepshow.
I mean, me neither, but like I said, never
Yeah.
trust a horror director who didn't make a bad movie. Boom, Rob Zombie, end of the D tier. There might not be a horror director that I despise more than Rob Zombie. I think his films are tasteless. I think that the philosophy contained within his films are not only simplistic, but I think narcissistic. And I just hate everything about Rob Zombie. Isabel, what do you think of Rob Zombie?
I will say those exact same sentences. A tier.
And that's why they're good.
Exact same and that's why no, but actually, I'll admit I'm kind of burned out on him. There was like that 2 year period where I was utterly obsessed with his work, and I still am a fan of his, but I'm on like a down slope where I'm just like I don't think about him as much these days, just because devoted so much time to him that I'm like I want to think about other things. So I'm not as much like hyped up on that zombie juice as I was a few years ago,
He
but I
was
still quite
so
like him.
big. He was so big for a while. I remember when House of a Thousand Corpses followed up
Oh,
by Devil's Rejects, and then Halloween came
Devil's
out. He
Rejects.
was huge. He was huge
Ha-
for a long time there, and I thought everything he did was terrible. I hate that first Halloween movie with all my heart.
oh,
I
I
would
like
agree
it.
that Halloween 2 is better, but it's still a piece of shit. Like,
Uh,
I hate all of his movies.
also, House of a Thousand Corpses is really fun. I just think it's kind of messy and doesn't really cohere as much
I
as
think it's
like
like a
some people
vanity
do.
project, like this
I
fucking
wouldn't go that far,
I
but
think it is.
Devil's Rejects is pretty much perfect. Halloween, I think, is flawed but really, really good. Halloween 2 is perfect. 31 is great,
Perfect.
but
Look at all these perfects coming out. Like that's ridiculous.
not like literally perfect. Halloween 2, I think, is just a staple of
All
the
right, we're
genre.
whittling him down, chat. We're whittling her down. So not perfect.
Sure.
Okay.
But what else? What am I favorite? Oh, I love Lords of Salem. And I Three from Hell is fine,
Did you
but
see Monsters?
no, I couldn't be bothered.
From what
It
in
looks
all
cute.
fairness, from what I saw, he was pretty. He seemed upset with that movie in some way. I didn't really follow it too closely, but he seemed upset with it. In all fairness,
Seems cute. But I don't know. It's Rob Zombie.
House of a Thousand Corpses was his first film, right? It shows. Fuck yeah, it does. So
She's a
many flaws in
brick
that.
house.
So many flaws in that damn movie. But Jason says we should watch Race with the Devil. 70s classic. Highly recommend it. We'll keep a lookout.
I'm going to go to the bathroom.
All right, I'll vamp for a second. Oh, House of a Thousand Corpses. I just can't get into, really. Yeah. Yeah, he's just not very good. But I'll move on to the next part of the tier real quick. We have Karin Kusama, who I really like. And I'm gonna put her in the A tier behind Mario Baba. Karin Kusama is most known for The Invitation, which is a horror film that I love very dearly, and Jennifer's Body, which I think is an extremely influential and significant film of 2000s horror. I think she's really good. Um, I thought Jennifer's Body was pretty damn extraordinary, all things considered, including the Diablo Cody script. I think that Karin Kusama might be um, the best filter for Diablo Cody, who can be. But if you get a good filter, oh well, I think we're all good. Stream looked like it did a weird thing really quick. All right, I think the stream's doing okay now. Let me just double check. I do see a comment here. Anyone currently doing horror that you're especially impressed by? Um, I mean, we covered a couple of them for me. I think that I've Lee Janiak, honestly, the director of the Fear Street movies, made some more. Not necessarily super impressed by Lee Janiak's movies, but if she made a couple more, I'm definitely intrigued by her movies. And who else on here? I mean, Eggers, Peele, you know, James Wan, still doing horror, and I'm really interested in what he does. Uh, you back, Isabel?
Yeah.
All right, you didn't miss much while you were gone. I put Karin Kusama in the A category for The Invitation and Jennifer's Body. Um,
Fair enough.
is there anyone doing horror currently that you're impressed by? So, out
Me,
of the newbies that we've covered, who interests you the most?
Teal, and
Neil?
I still like following Eli Roth.
I
Um,
wouldn't call him a new guy. I don't even know if he makes
that's why I
movies.
was
Oh,
like,
you told me he's making Thanksgiving. Okay,
supposedly, I feel like
supposedly.
I'm forgetting someone though. I don't know who I would be forgetting now. I don't know.
I was just
Cronenberg's
saying that like
back to
Felicia
dropping
Nayak
shit.
made another movie, I'd be right there like opening day just to finally know if she's good or not. Like it's very hard for me to
Oh,
tell.
you know what I did like recently? I really like Skinamarink.
Oh yeah, who directed that? Whose movie is that?
Ah, what was his name? Because he's some guy that does like YouTube, I
Yeah,
think.
very impressive. Very impressive movie.
Kyle Edward Ball. It's in circles I run and been a like love it or hate it thing. It's really caused a lot of discourse, but I like that. You know, I
You
like
still
that it's generating discussion. And I lost you. I don't know if I'm lost. You there?
Yeah, I'm there. Stream's been
Okay,
having some problems.
you're good. But yeah, I love that dude for that movie.
Nice. Yeah, Stream did that a few times while you were gone. So
Oh, also the Halloween picture of the last 10 years. I'm sure we both agree on this.
oh the
Hubie Halloween.
oh, okay. I thought you were gonna say like David Gordon Green or something.
No,
Who I
it's Hubie
regret not
Halloween.
putting here, so he had more in the D category. But Sam Raimi,
Yeah, Sam.
oof, oof. I'm gonna put him above Fulci. I'm gonna put him in the A. I really like that damn Evil Dead movie.
True. I wouldn't put him above Fulci, but Sam Raimi is a blueprint director for me. He is. I blame him partly for me being the way I am. You know, Sam
Sam Raimi is
Raimi's
so good. The Evil Dead series is
so good.
endlessly entertaining. Uh, he's not in the S because I don't think they're like endlessly fascinating.
I
But you're so influential, right? I think that maybe the Evil Dead series is one of the most influential American series of films for American filmmakers. If I had a
I
dime
agree.
for every time I heard someone say Sam Raimi was an influence, it's fucking, I'd be pretty rich.
Yeah. I saw Army of Darkness on film recently, and I met the guy who edited it, and he had nothing but really good things to say about Raimi.
Yeah, he also seems like
Mostly about the way he makes movies. It seems like he has nothing but positive things. Um, it's really yeah, I love the Evil Dead movies. I also love the Spider-Man movies.
I don't mind Spider-Man 1 and 2 for sure. Dark Man, I don't hate
They're great.
even A Simple Plan, I think it's called.
Yeah, yeah, it's Simple Plan.
I didn't watch Doctor Strange in the
Oh, I
Multiverse of
don't care.
Madness. Yeah, I don't care either. I don't think
I
Sam cares. So,
There's something about the Spider-Man trilogy that's just so psychosexual and so weird. And I love it. It's like chaos. It's like, why am I this mesmerized by this stupid movie? But they're so weird and
yeah. No,
interesting.
Sam
Like, why
Raimi
am I
is
spending
awesome.
so much of this movie that, for one, doesn't go the Nolan route of making it so like dark and serious and hyper realistic, and yet it's still primarily concerned with how much money is left in Peter Parker's bank account. Like how does he strike that balance? I don't know, but he does it. Like we're spending so much time on his pizza delivery job, and yet also it's like the goofiest movie ever made. It's just so interesting. It's so interesting.
Oh, I think that Sam definitely deserves to be at A. I think
Yeah,
he's
I
so
completely agree.
I think
Completely
he's
agree.
inspired so many people, right? So many people took how he made, what is it called, like Within the Woods, the movie he made as like a trailer or like to fund the Evil Dead. Like he
Hmm.
basically wrote part of the playbook on how to make good independent American
Cinema.
horror movies.
Yeah,
Please deep dive those Spider-Man movies.
I would
Um,
love nothing more.
all right. Well, when you're done with your rappers and horror cinema,
I'm sure there's at least a few rappers in somewhere in the Spider-Man movies. I couldn't tell you where, but
Bruce Campbell, such a good rapper. Next up, we got Hideo Nakata, who made the original Ring film as well as Dark Water. Pretty influential J horror director. I'm gonna put him in the C category. I'm gonna put him above Leisha Nayak, but behind Tom Holland, who I think Tom Holland is ruling the seat here right now. But I don't hate the original Ring. I've made fun of it before, mostly because I do prefer the Gore Verbinski 2002 American remake. I
I
think that
knew
it
you
spoke
would.
well. I think that it spoke to its time, to its political climate a bit more. And, I think that oh my God, directly post 9/11 America was terrified by The Ring for very obvious reasons. I think that I go into that in my Ring video. You can go watch that video. But he's a very skilled director, and I think he
Yeah.
belongs in the C tier and terribly influential, I would assume. This next person is Powell Lenny. I think one of the good old silent masters of horror. I'm gonna put him just above Tom Holland, though. He made The Man Who Laughs. He made Waxworks. I think that The Man Who Laughs
Uh,
is a pretty masterful film. I think that it's like a heartbreaking kind of horror movie, and a superb Conrad Veidt performance within it. Man Who
mhm.
Laughs is, I think, one of probably like a crown jewel of Universal horror. I think it's very, 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 very good. And I have a video about that one as well.
I love Universal Horror, but I haven't actually seen it yet. It's one of the ones I have like on the list of stuff I really want to watch because I've always been enamored with like the images of like the face, the smile in that
Yeah,
movie, and I really
obviously
want to
the
watch it. I
Joker and
really,
all
really want to
that
watch it.
fun stuff.
Yeah.
Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson.
I've only seen one of his horror movies, which is Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. Uh,
Terrifying.
I made the joke the last time I watched those movies that I called it termite montage because it's like the galaxy brain version of like what guys like George Lucas were trying to do. Like he has this weird momentum to his images and this weird like style of editing that doesn't actually convey anything. It's just cool to watch. And I kind of love that. I kind of respect that, but I haven't actually seen his horror movies. My partner actually loves what's
Dead
the
Alive.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so
my
good.
partner tapes for that movie a lot, and I want to watch it, but I've only seen his Lord of the Rings movie and then his Beatles
I
document.
don't blame your partner at all. Dead Alive is so fucking cool. I think The Frighteners is a really charming kind of horror comedy. A great
Hmm.
Jeffrey performance there. But Frightener is fun. Dead Alive is good. I mean, he's no higher than a C director as a horror movie, as a
Of
horror
course.
director. Um, I don't put him just behind
King
Don
Kong?
Costa.
Don't you love King Kong?
Look, Dead Alive is enough to get him a mention for sure, and he's definitely not D. Dead Alive is pretty inventive and really goofy and ridiculously, absurdly gory. And yeah, gets a minute to see. Oh, of course, Heavenly Creatures is actually great. Yeah, Nessie, Heavenly Creatures is a great film. Um, and I do have a video on The Ring. Should be able to find it. Just type your cult boyfriend The Ring. Hopefully it shows up, or the algorithm does hate me, so maybe it won't show up. But I do have a video on The Ring. Um, it's one of the first videos I made when I got editing software, so there are like 50,000 jump cuts in it because I got carried away with myself. But yeah, it's there. Um, next up,
Back.
Ro-
I'm glad we got all the controversial directors like Landis out of the way, so we can.
Roman Polanski goes to the top of the C tier. S
So,
tier,
would you
S
have
tier.
signed the petition?
Oh my god. Oh my god. Roman goes to the top of the S tier. Rosemary's Baby, Repulsion, Knife in the Water, The Tenant. He goes to the top. Ninth Gate. He goes to the top. He's perfect. He's wonderful. A terrible human being who probably deserves execution, but I think
I
he's so good.
I quite like Rosemary's Baby. I recently watched Ghost Rider,
Oh my fucking
and
god, no. He's going to the top.
all right, guys, we're doing a chat poll. Would you have signed the petition? Um, no, don't actually answer that. No, I thought Ghost Rider was really good when I watched it recently. It's also like weirdly scary
Yeah.
for not really a horror movie. It's just a thriller, but I liked it a lot. But Rosemary's Baby is the best one. I never was over the moon for Repulsion, but I think I also just
I
watched it
am.
at a bad time. I watched that like a decade ago, and I think if I took the time to watch it, I would probably like it.
think
And I think
Repulsion's
he's
just
a
like
interesting
fascinating.
director. He's so interesting because like obviously jokes aside, he's so like obviously evil, and yet like
Yeah.
he has such an intuitive understanding of how people like himself are evil and like
Hmm.
create these cultures of like rape and abuse.
I
And
think he might be one of the most cathartic filmmakers ever, and I mean that in like a very negative way. I think
yeah,
I think that his movies contain a lot of like actual darkness, and
yeah. I mean, it's fucked up that he understands how Rosemary feels, and so he's like, so you
yes.
know, and yet
I mean,
you
you brought
also
up
kind of don't
Repulsion, which
care.
is like half a rape fantasy, half the weaponization of the male gaze. It's like insane. It's fucking insane
Yeah,
that he made that movie.
he's
Um,
there's something perverse about it. Like you understand it so
Everything's perverse
well,
about
and
Repulsion.
yet, and yet, you know, like if you know how much pain you're causing, how could you, you know? But that's kind
Uh,
of like the seediness of Polanski and why one watches
I
him.
think he's a master. I think he's one of the
Yeah.
all-time greats, and I'm gonna have to defend that until I die.
Is Ninth Gate any good?
I love Ninth Gate. I love
I was
Frantic as well. Like I love the Ninth Gate.
I Frantic I really wanted to watch recently actually, and I just didn't get around to it. But after watching Ghost Rider, I was compelled by Ninth Gate and Frantic, and like the responses from people I know seem so like middling, but I was still like so interested.
I got a question for you, Isabel.
What?
Is
Oh, I
M.
love
Night
M. Night.
horror?
Yeah, and I love M. Night. I was kind of bummed he's not on here, but I love M. Night.
Where would you put him?
You know where I'd put him, bitch.
In the
You,
S?
yeah. No,
I'd
I just have a very long-standing, deeply personal relationship to M. Night. Uh, Sixth Sense was the first movie I ever loved.
no comment. It's best not to have a comment on Polanski. It's best
Yeah.
not to.
The Village is a favorite of mine. Glass is a favorite of mine. I just love Shyamalan. He's
I like
interesting. He's
The
interesting.
Sixth Sense, and that's probably it. I'd put him in the D tier.
I would recommend watching Old. Knock at the Cabin. I don't think you'd like though, but
It's
I
just that
liked
like
it.
when you give a director so many chances, eventually you should just give up on him. So like I did that. Now I don't complain about M. Night much.
It, I'm every day I'm trying not to give my take on Last Airbender because then you'll just stop talking to me. But
Oh, do you like it? I
I
mean,
think it's interesting. It's a fucking mess. It's a
it's not like
Frankenstein
I'm very
movie.
loyal to the show. I don't care.
But it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see what a guy who had a vision for a movie, but then he was denied the ability to realize that vision, and so he just kind of said, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna do some weird shit in the context of this movie Nickelodeon is paying me to make." And
Fair.
so he does like a lot of weird visual shit and like a lot of like tonal experimentation because he just doesn't give a fuck about being sincere. And so it's like purely like a free paycheck to make something weird.
Did you see
And
Knock at the Cabin?
yeah, I really like that.
Well, we got an agreement here. Old is willfully outrageous. I wanted to see.
Yeah,
Well, the only reason I would want to see it is because I am a like Gael Garcia Bernal fan, and
he's great in it. He steals that movie. It's also a really interesting like movie about Shyamalan's kind of like the darkness of the role of the director in a way.
mm,
That's kind of what it's about. Like how there's this kind of like thorniness to that role, this kind of almost like a fascistic quality to being a director, and I find that really interesting.
excellent. And I'm gonna do the chat a favor because I feel like the longer Roman stays at the very top, the larger the target on my back gets. Wes Craven, I'll allow Wes
Really,
Craven to overtake Roman.
really, I wouldn't have expected you to take that position, but I guess it makes sense.
Scream's like possibly my favorite movie ever.
Fair enough. I quite like Wes, not as much as a lot of the other guys in the S tier. I would put Romero, Hooper, Argento, and Cronenberg,
and
even
and some
Carpenter over him. But
and
he's
something
like
gets lost
endlessly.
in the shuffle. Just to make it clear, it gets lost in the shuffle. I mostly focus on Kevin Williamson when I'm doing like Scream analyses and stuff, but
Mhm.
but my God, Wes Craven is what makes those movies masterful. You can have a great screenplay; it could be as great as it, and it could just be great. It could be wonderful, but a great screenplay is fucking dog shit if you don't have a great director to filter it out. Just look at the movie that Kevin Williamson himself directed, Teaching Mrs. Tingle. Not very good. So even though I focus on the writing and those kind of postmodern qualities, Wes Craven was right there with him, and probably refined the screenplay and made it into something even larger than itself as well. And Wes Craven is also one of those we've talked about in positive way directors who seem to lack a little bit of ego. He
Hmm.
gives
Oh
all
yeah,
the credit to
very
Kevin
mellow.
Williamson anyway. Yeah.
He's like the
So,
mellowest guy ever.
and just to not drone on about Scream because I don't have to, like A Nightmare on Elm Street, fucking perfect.
So
Last House
good.
on the Left is one of the most disturbed and deranged
Yeah,
debuts of all time.
that one fucked me up.
And I didn't mean to cut you off, so go on about what you were saying about Wes
I was
Craven.
gonna say I think what Williamson brings to the table is more complementary to what Wes was already interested in anyway.
With New
I think
Nightmare,
it's
yeah.
yeah, I think it's very easy to think like all that humor and comedy and kind of perceptiveness about young people, the psyche of young people as he observes it is Williamson, but I think a lot of that is him as well, is Wes.
It
I think
was
you see
a
that,
dream team. It was a perfect team.
yeah, they're very complementary to each other, more than I think people realize. And like I don't
We
think
were robbed and cursed. We were robbed. Like that we talked about it. That cut exists. I'm sorry that I keep talking. I just get excited when I'm talking about Wes Craven
what
finally and a director that excites me enough to cut Isabel off.
Cursed?
We were
Are you talking
robbed
about
with cursed.
Cursed?
Cursed. We were robbed.
I haven't seen the what exists just because like I know it's so
Because it's
bastardized.
terrible. But the real version exists. I've got confirmation that it exists in a dusty warehouse somewhere. And they just got to release it. It's probably great. Okay, now go on, Isabel. If I cut you
Oh, I
off
was
again,
gonna
I'm
say
kind of
I love
sorry.
My Soul to Take. My Soul to Take is so weird, so weird,
The
and
people
it's
under the
like
stairs, like the guy had
yeah.
bangers.
Scream 4 I love.
My God. I hate Scream 3. So that's when I come back to being like, they have to be
That's
together. They have to be
no,
together.
yeah. I do not like Scream 3, but I love Scream 4.
Yeah. They have to be together or else it's botched. But yeah, Dream Team and Wes Craven. Some of those visuals in Scream, I don't think I've spent too much time on, are terrifying. The way that Drew Barrymore is hanging from that tree in the beginning, like some kind of porcelain doll, it's terrifying. It's ridiculous.
Yes, release the Craven cut, by the way.
Let me go to the chat real quick. Wes the King. Yep. Right now, he's currently the reigning champ. We got some agreement here. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Wes Craven.
Yo, rest in peace.
Conceit in other postmodern works that the dialogue doesn't always keep pace like Craven managed with Scream. Yeah, that's the thing,
Rest
right?
in
Because
peace, by the way.
oh, you like that, but that's the thing because Scream could have Scream doesn't feel like Buffy the Vampire Slayer to me, for example, right? And it arguably has the same kind of Williamson and Whedon were working under the same umbrella over at WB, making Dawson's Creek and Buffy. Craven managed to keep the dialogue that I think you're right, Chase. That would normally be seen as kind of trendy or weird or out of place at the time, and made it more grounded. And I've always talked about in the first Scream that Billy is terrifying first and foremost because he's a psychotic misogynist and then a cinephile third. Like, and Craven managed to, oh my God, get such a good performance out of his, I think deliberately, dollar store Johnny Depp Skeet Ulrich casting. Like, I think it's so good for a million different reasons. Has anyone seen Darling? Gets compared to Repulsion. Let me type in Darling. Gonna have to give me more than that. Darling film from 1965? No, with Julie Christie? If this is it, then I don't know. If that's the movie you're talking about, then I haven't seen it. Or seen it yet. Is it a new movie? Isabel, we're bad cinephiles.
I've never watched a movie.
You've never watched a movie. Gotcha. All right. People Under the Stairs, and yes, even the studio botched Cursed is a favorite of mine.
I can respect it.
It's still fun. I mean, it should. I just wish we got the perfect, Christina Ricci and fucking Joshua Jackson horror movie by Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson. It should have been amazing. Release the Craven cut. Can we please get this trending? Oh, you're gonna have to vamp for a second. My laptop's about to die.
Okay. He's gone again. Dad's gone. What do you guys want to talk about? What do you guys want to talk about? Scream 4 does keep getting better. I love that movie. I love how fucked up the vibes are. It's a very Instagram movie. Come on, talk to me, guys. Was it is the Red Eye movie any good that he did with Cillian Murphy? Craven's birthday was on the 2nd. Yes. Happy birthday, King. We miss you. I I love you guys should watch the interview he has with Mick Garris for I think Masters of Horror, whatever. You can find it on YouTube. I think it's like 3 or 4 parts. It is the most pleasant thing to ever watch. Late to this, but do you like Signs? I've completely turned on M. Night since seeing that. I used to think of it as being middle of the road as far as M. Night, but I watched it again recently and I liked it a lot more. I was really moved by it. I think it's extremely moving. So yeah, a good movie. But you like Red Eye? I will watch Red Eye then. If you say it is good, I trust you, strange person in my computer.
Red Eye is awesome. Red Eye is
Yeah, I
awesome.
was asking for their opinion, and we also addressed that Craven's birthday was the other day.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Um,
And I responded to this question already, so
good.
you
You
can
you
pass on
should
it
have.
if you want.
You should have. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Signs. Yeah, I would recommend Red Eye as well. Did you see Oppenheimer, Isabel?
I did.
Was it good?
Yeah,
You want to see a great Cillian Murphy performance? Go watch Red Eye.
yeah. I know because Joyce Carol Oates has been thirst posting about Cillian Murphy, so she was posting trailers from Red Eye on Twitter, and she's
A
like an
part of
early
me
kill.
loves Joyce Carol Oates. A part of
She's
me
a
just
delight.
adores her, at least on Twitter.
I love that she's just like openly thirsting over Cillian Murphy, and I'm like, same queen.
Surprisingly sensual, for sure. I mean, you put Cillian Murphy and Rachel McAdams in a frame together, and you're gonna get some sensuality.
I love that clip from Batman Begins people are posting. It's like, why does he sound so thirsty for the Batman? Because he's like, it's him, the Batman. The Batman. It's like he's so thirsty for Batman.
Yeah, people used to charge Nolan with being sexless before Oppenheimer. I'm like, did you
Oh my
see
god.
any Cillian Murphy performance in his movies?
Oh, that screenplay for Oppenheimer that was written in first person came out, and there's a part where the part happens where it cuts to him having sex with Florence Pugh, and in the screenplay it says, "We are fucking" in all caps. It's like we are fucking sweaty, gross.
Oh
It's
my
like
god. Good for you, Nolan. Go for it. Red Eye is fantastic. I'm glad we're mostly in agreement here. You got to check it out, Isabel.
I will. What's next?
J- James Whale.
Who doesn't love James Whale?
Yeah, I'm gonna put him above Clive Barker on the beat here.
Okay, you hate James Whale. Yeah. Oh, so
What do you mean
once
I
again,
hate James Whale? You think he's A or S?
yeah. Have you seen the Frankenstein movies are the blueprint, bruh?
I mean, he's at B. That's
Fair enough.
fine.
He,
He's
to
next
be
to the
fair, he
guy who
has
made.
very well.
He's in between Psycho and Hellraiser right now. He's doing fine.
He's better than Hitchcock.
I like that we all think that Red Eye was very sensual. Isabel,
Yeah.
watch it and report back. Was it sensual?
Well, once again, Zach oppressing the gays.
And I think Bride of Frankenstein's incredible. I
It
love
is.
his
It is.
German expressionist influences, but also like James
You
Whale
almost.
was using that to do a lot of innovation on his own. Like you said, I think he did create the blueprint in a very large way.
My favorite's the first Frankenstein. As much as I love Bride, I just love the way the first one looks. I love the gothic
I'm more of a
look.
fan of Bride, but Maybe
No,
because it
I
was
get it
challenging the horror genre, like, at that point, like, it might have
already.
been one of the very first horror comedies. It really might have been.
Yeah. And then Invisible Man is hilarious.
Right.
The old Dark House also kind of funny. Who's this?
That is my Dark House, Dark Horse filmmaker. Uh, I even looked up how to say his name, and I don't know how. Wame Colette Sarah. You might
So
know him as the
you're
Black Adam director.
the Jungle Cruise director. Yeah.
The Jungle Cruise director.
I always knew you were Jungle Cruise auteur. Yeah.
He also directed House of Wax and
Oh,
Orphan.
I want to see that. I really want to see House of Wax.
House of Wax, I think, is beautiful, and it's one of the best Dark Castle movies. And Orphan is extremely good. I wanted Dark Castle to be represented in some way because Dark Castle is one of my favorite, like brands of horror, one of my favorite waves of horror that was happening simultaneous to the return. Um, I think I'm feeling crazy. I'm feeling crazy right now. I'm putting him above Guillermo del Toro on the B tier just because House of Wax is so good. And I think
I've
Orphan is
heard it,
also fucking incredible.
what I've heard about House of Wax. I want to see it so bad. I want to see it so much.
Oh, I think you'd dig it. You dug House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah, I did.
House of Wax is more sophisticated than it, so I mean you might enjoy it a bit more. Um, I still think House on Haunted Hill is the best Dark Castle movie. It's just incredible
That
what they
was
were
a
able to do
fun
with that
movie.
studio. Um, I would watch House of Wax on a loop during 8th grade. Yeah, you should try doing that now. I think it will work just as good. It still hits. Chad Michael Murray, Alicia Cuthbert, Paris fucking Hilton. It's a great movie. And lastly, kind of lead me into the second part of this stream, I'm going to put Brian De Palma at the top of the S tier. He's one of my favorite filmmakers ever. I think that his I I just rewatched Carrie today, and holy fuck, that movie is just incredible. The movie is astonishingly good. Obviously, Body Double. I'm gonna go through his movies like in a minute or two, so I'm not gonna go through them all now. He's just to me, he is one of the all-time greats, unquestionably. I think he's a better student of Hitchcock than Polanski was, and I hope that we all understand that's a pretty big compliment from me. Love Brian De Palma, but this right here, this ended up being our tier list for the best horror directors. We were missing a couple.
Unilaterally agreed on.
This was mostly vibes based. This is really a vibe check. But I don't think it looks too bad. Look at poor fucking John Landis and Rob Zombie.
That's just dirty to Rob Zombie. Even if you hate his movies, he's such a pleasant guy. He doesn't deserve to be in there with the literal murderer.
He's literally the last.
Like a guy who's a pretty chill dude, but you don't like his movies next to a
A
murderer.
murderer. And like 500 spots away from a rapist.
Oh,
You
that's
know what?
evil.
Horror's flawed. When we talk about horror directors, we're going to talk about some flawed people.
De Palma's
Um,
good, by the way.
okay. When I put these people together, I never thought about where they would end up. I had no idea that it'd be just Rob Zombie and John Landis at the bottom. I only put Landis down there as punishment for, the murder. Rob Zombie's there for the quality of his work. Okay. Darling 2015. I just looked it up. It looked interesting. I have not seen it though.
Yeah, to Duval, Rob Zombie is actually A tier, but
Not at
Zach
all.
hates the truth.
I have
Actually,
recently
he's more
watched it.
B
Hell yeah, it
tier. I'll say
hits.
B tier. B
No, House
tier,
of
but
Wax hits. We're on to the comments now, Isabel. House of Wax hits. I think you were saying that Rob Zombie was A tier. I had to cut you. Had to cut the mic. Figured De Palma would be top. I like that you guys
no.
know me. And then here we go. Now we can laugh together. Yeah, isn't it great? Isn't it great that he's at the very bottom?
No.
I do like Martyrs. Can't tell you
Martyrs
exactly
is
who.
great. I like
Yeah,
that it starts with what's the kid who made Mommy? Uh,
this was like the one of the French Extremity films. For some
yeah, I
reason, the
know.
representative of French Extremity I have on here is Alexander
Oh
Aja.
yeah, Xavier Dolan's in it, and he in the first 5 minutes he gets shot.
Oh, yeah. No, it's good. It's good. I don't know if I've seen anything else from that director either. I'm not an expert on French Extremity. I think that like Jane from Stylist Substance and possibly you, Isabel, I think you two would really like that genre because it does it's obsessed with things that I really don't like seeing. I don't like
Mhm.
seeing horror that is too brutal, and it's of course obsessed with that kind of brutality. And I also am not a huge fan of like Gaspar Noé, who isn't a horror director, but he is within French Extremity.
Me neither.
Um,
As far as that's, I'm more of a Reppin guy than a
I like
Noé
Refn a
guy.
lot. Refn's a
Yeah,
lot.
me too.
Refn's great. I'm just talking like within that wave or school of filmmaking, it gets a bit too hardcore for me. You know,
I get that. I
I'm a bit of a
accidentally
wuss
took a
when it comes
friend
to
to
French
Martyrs.
Extremity.
I accidentally took a friend to see Martyrs in a theater on his birthday because I didn't know it was gonna be Martyrs, and he had already seen it before, so I made him rewatch it for his birthday. But,
Bye, Rob Zombie and John Landis. Bye.
oh no,
We just
no,
KO'd Rob Zombie and John Landis. Halloween 2 is cool, but everything else
no,
is insufferable, especially the first Halloween. You know,
no,
Halloween 2 doesn't suck as much as the first Halloween, but it still sucks.
no. I'm just gonna
Danielle Harris
openly
for life.
be mean to your commenters since it's not my channel.
I don't think you're being mean to them.
It's not my channel, so I
No,
can
it's
just
fun.
be
It's
like,
fun if we can.
yeah.
I might have to be mean to some of them. We did talk about
Yeah, we
Jordan
did.
Peele, but you know that I didn't see. I've only seen Us, but Isabel made a pretty strong argument that that Peele was like one of the best of the newer wave of directors. So I think he's placed pretty high. He's up at B, above of Eggers. We did talk about her. She's placed, I think, at a decent spot. She shows a lot of potential. All right, not a Coppola. I don't know. If Landis is in D, then Polanski can be knocked down. Just saying. Oh my god. You see, you're trying to extradite Polanski from the S tier, but as we know, Polanski cannot be extradited.
I'm just saying, go to the petition Wikipedia page, Command F, and type your cult boyfriend, and
And I signed it, is what you're saying.
yeah, your name is right there, sandwiched between Darren Aronofsky and Guillermo del Toro.
Uh, Roman will never be knocked down. I was being charitable when I put Wes above him.
Yeah, I could do that. I'll do that.
All right, Isabel will do that, and then
I'll watch one of them. I'll watch X, I
all
guess.
right, you got a lot of homework. I really want your rappers in our movie deep dive first.
It'd be really funny if my number one was something that had Eminem in it, though.
You call it like 8 Mile a horror movie or something.
Better lose yourself.
Since I normally spring ideas for videos on Isabel, so Isabel never knows like what we're doing, and I don't even know if she knows a lot about Brian De Palma. Do you?
I'm getting into him recently, actually. I historically really like Carrie. Um, and I like the first Mission Impossible. I watched that again for the first time in ages lately. Snake Eyes is good.
So you have some thoughts on some of these, so we can run through this. This isn't going to be a long ranking. This is going to be
Yeah,
like the Kubrick one last time. I'm going to run through these because Brian De Palma is one of my favorite directors. I'm going to run through it. Murder a la Maude, his first like a proper thriller, is properly in the C category. Because I mean, I don't like it. It's very amateurish, but my God, some of those visuals are outrageous. He's still an outrageous visual stylist, as he likes to call himself, more than a director. He's fantastic. And then
I
I
love
think,
Blowout.
yeah, we could both blow out I think that
I
Brian De
watched it
Palma has
recently
4. You watched it recently? He has 4
for
S
the
tier
first
movies.
time, and it was the first time where I'm like, oh, I get it. Like
Oh, it's so
get
good.
I get why people like De Palma so much. That was what inspired me to like revisit other movies of his. I've seen.
It's
It's
so good.
perfect.
Like,
It's so
he
good.
I've never seen a director like, manhandle cinema isn't the right way to put it, but I've never seen a director just take cinema and, like, just cut it, so form it, shape it like fucking putty. Like, when De Palma is on fire, when he's on top of his game, there are almost no limitations, uh, with what he can show, and also, like, no end to the kind of statements that he's making within his art. I think what makes Brian De Palma so interesting is that his sequences, like, are in constant visual dialogue with each other. You know, he loves to do split screens, and those split screens are about different narratives or images or visuals actually dialoguing, an open dialogue between visuals. It's so fascinating to me. I think he's one of them. I think there's a lot of untapped crit and analyses like of De Palma, some really serious analyses that's untapped that I hope to pursue in some capacity later on. So like I said, Brian De Palma has 4 S tier movies, and Body Double might be his very best film. It's so beautiful. It's a perverse Dark Mirror universe version of Vertigo, but it's also so much more than that. I think he's making some rather harrowing statements about cinema itself within that movie. Do you, if you have an opinion on any of these movies, just cut me
I,
off when
I've
we
only
get to
seen
them.
Blowout of these. I've seen very little De Palma. I literally told you all the ones I've seen.
Well, just to show everyone that I am harsh on De Palma, I mean, Bonfire of the Vanities is one of the most
Oh, that's
infamous
my
Hollywood
favorite one.
flops. It's one of
My
the most
favorite.
infamous Hollywood flops of all time.
It's my favorite
It's
movie.
it I think it almost ended De Palma's career. It was the punchline of so many jokes when it came out. It was terrible. There's some cool visuals there, but my God, De Palma, De Palma, De Palma. Um, Here's the thing: when he misfires, he fucking kamikazes. Like he goes for it. Blowout is sick. Blowout's awesome. Blowout is really cool. I love unpacking Body Double. So well conceived, like immaculately conceived. The relax, don't do it sequence. My God, what the fuck? Like it's so fucking phenomenal. Like talking about Brian De Palma makes me excited. Raising Cain, where he starts to rip off himself. I'm gonna put at the top of the C tier. That's probably his most self-reflexive or self-referential movie. It's got its charms, and it's got a certain amount of interesting qualities to it, but overall it's it's low mid De Palma, whereas Carlito's Way I think is a B. He was a pretty good gangster film director. I mean, he got some good Sean Penn and fucking Al Pacino and John Leguizamo performances in that. It's very good. And now we're at Carrie, another S tier. I think it's right behind Body Double, but above Blowout. It's incredible. I think what truly separates it, or what makes it kind of unique in De Palma's catalog, is that it's probably the best performance in a De Palma movie because Sissy Spacek is so authentic and so sad and pitiful and scary and petrifying. You don't normally get to talk about an actor being authentic within a Brian De Palma movie, so that's very unique there. And I watched it today, and I actually cried at one part, like where when she goes to the prom and like Tommy's um, being like genuinely nice to her and even kisses her. Like I cried. I was like, "Fuck, man." It's so tragic, and I think it's a really interesting adaptation of King's work. I really do. What do you think of Carrie, Isabel?
Great movie. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember really being moved by the agony of it when I originally
It's
saw it.
so agonizing. It's like I think that's what I was crying about because I'm like, because you know what's gonna happen, and it's the hopefulness of it all, and it's what makes it one of the best teen movies I've ever seen because like she's punished for being hopeful in the face of religious abuse and also abuse from her peers, romantic abuse, social abuse, and then punished for it. So then she has to punish them. But yeah, I'm glad it makes you emotional as well. Moonlight Orange. And I think that's why it's at S, if not, and if it might even be better than Body Double in a few certain ways, because I wouldn't call De Palma a very emotional director. Someone in the chat said that he was a cold director the other day, colder than Kubrick, and like, of course, I agree. So if we can talk about being emotional within a Brian De Palma movie, that's really special. I think the ending of Blowout's pretty emotional as well, and I think it was emotional for De Palma, considering that Nancy Allen was his wife for quite a long time. Next up, we have Casualties of War. I'm going to put in the A section. An excellent Brian De Palma Vietnam movie. It's pretty terrifying. The Black Dahlia goes in D. I walked out of this movie, and Brian De Palma is still my favorite director. Is my favorite director. Then I walked out of it. I thought it was a terrible noir. Same with Domino at the very end. Domino, when De Palma fell off, he hit his face on the concrete and bled everywhere. Dressed to Kill. Have you seen this one, Isabel?
I want to.
I like it more than most. I'm going to put it at the top of the A tier. I know it's problematic. I know it's kind of weird, but I think it's also very beautiful and transgressive. Femme Fatale at the top of the A tier as well. Very underrated. Antonio Banderas and Rebecca Romaine are incredible in the movie. And like I said, that dialogue of visuals is happening nonstop in that movie. His visuals are out of control. They're so good. We have to do an analysis and figure out what the visuals are actually saying to each other. The jump scare at the end for Carrie, yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I feel like one of you brought up similarities between Polanski and De Palma. If so, can you expand? Yeah, that was me. I did that. Similarities in the sense that they are both arguably Hitchcock's greatest pupils, his greatest students, and I think they both took the language of Hitchcock and complicated it in different ways and in very unique ways. Um, that's about the similarity, and also they're both extremely perverse directors. Brian De Palma is not a horrible human being or anything like that, but he's definitely a perverse one. And Roman Polanski, we obviously know, has a lot of perversities,
He does.
but mostly it's the fact that they are students of Hitchcock, and they both went on and it showed that they learned lessons from him in different ways, and they both built on the language and transcended it in their own incredible ways. Really, that's about it for that. You just pop through here. The Fury.
I know that Godard kind of liked this.
The Fury?
I'm reading a book of this lecture series he did in Montreal back around the time it came out, and he talks about how he went to see it the other day in theaters. He's like, "Oh, it's pretty all right, pretty
That's
good."
cool. That's
De Palma's
cool.
an interesting guy.
It's definitely mid De Palma, but one of the coolest things about The Fury, and I want to read about the making of it because I would love to be a fly on the wall. Here's another similarity between Polanski and De Palma. The Fury stars John Cassavetes, and I would like to know how Brian and John got along, because notoriously, infamously, John did not get along at all with Roman and pegged him as a fucking weirdo right away. What was the thing? We've made fun of Roman about this before. Like, John,
Oh, are you talking about where Cassavetes made fun of him?
yeah.
Yeah. There, I forget exactly what it was, but Polanski made some like vague comment about like the nature of women or something, and Cassavetes was like, "You know nothing of women."
Yeah. It was also like Roman was saying that no man could be faithful as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah, and that's
marriages will
why.
never
And
work because no man could be faithful. And Don Cassavetes was like, you know what I want to do? I want to fuck my wife more than anything
yeah,
in the world. I
and
love fucking my wife. He's a wife
I
guy. He's the biggest wife guy in the world.
I've really become Cassavetes pilled recently. Woman
Cassavetes
Under
is
the Influence is like the
amazing.
perfect movie, but
I wouldn't mind doing a ranking of him sometime. Those are some bangers there. Oh my God, Cassavetes is great. But
yeah,
Polanski fired back in interviews when he was asked about Cassavetes' films, and he called them home
yep.
movies. He did not call. He said they're not actual cinema. So they had a pretty seething hatred of each other.
Roman said that long-term monogamy is impossible, and so Cassavetes said, "You know nothing of women."
You know nothing of women. I love my wife.
Yeah,
But
Roland.
he's very good in The Fury. The Fury is mid De Palma. Uh, yeah, great Cassavetes performance though.
I didn't even know he was
Greetings
in it,
goes in D. For a minute there, Isabel, I think that De Palma thought he was America's Jean-Luc Godard for a minute.
and he might be
Um,
right.
he made like really weird. Distributors tried to call them comedies, but they were insane political, fucking anarchic, dreamlike movies, all starring Robert De Niro, and they're all fucking weird. Hi Mom is the best one of them, and we'll get to that one in a
That's funny you
minute.
mention that because around that time, Godard was trying to get De Niro for a movie, but it fell through.
Because of De Palma.
No, but like it was around the time he was watching De Palma, and he
Okay.
was also trying to cast De Niro.
Oh, what do you think of the first Mission Impossible?
It's rad. Um,
It is rad.
it feels like a completely different series from the Macquarie era, so it's hard to compare them. My favorite is two, because of course it is.
John Woo
But
is awesome.
I love two. I think it's so crazy and fun and awesome. But one is really good. One is like a really compact, really interesting thriller. It feels like a different universe from the other movies.
There's some
But
beautiful parts of that, like when in the beginning where
it's
whatever they're
like
doing
giving
goes
you
wrong.
opening credits for a TV show, except all the characters in that show immediately die.
Yeah, like the botched job that they're doing, and like there's this beautiful part that's pure De Palma of like John Voight covered in blood, like
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
in
it's so
slow mo
good.
or something, and it's like oh god, that's gorgeous. Don't know why Tom Cruise wanted Brian De Palma for the first one. That seems like a weird get, but I think he made it really visually stunning. Honestly,
I
John Woo. I think Mission Impossible 2 is the best one as well. I also have a
Oh,
soft spot for
really?
like
I thought you would have railed on me
no,
for that.
no, just for Tandy Newton alone, Mission Impossible 2 is the best. But
Speak
also John Woo is so cool and the motorcycles and all that. That's fun.
There's an amazing shot in two where it's just the framing of the shot is like a giant pair of boobs in the corner and Tom Cruise grinning at them. And that's like the first time I've ever believed he has the capacity for sexual attraction towards another human being, female or otherwise. But
And, and of course you get John Woo's doves coming out to
my
show you that Ethan Hunt is Jesus.
My favorite part is him kicking the dirt so the gun shoots up into the air and he turns and spins
Yeah.
and shoots. It's my favorite, one of my favorite movie moments of all time. But anyway,
Uh,
one is I've seen people describe one as seeming like De Palma just doing a highlights reel, kind of like
yeah.
autopilot, but it's just like even De Palma doing autopilot is like incredible. It's
I,
like
I heard it was difficult to communicate with. Like Tom Cruise could not communicate with De Palma. Like De Palma was kind of cut off to Tom Cruise's input, and I think that's one of the reasons why he wasn't asked to come back.
fair enough, but I think it works. I think he fits the material for that one, but I don't think he would have fit the material for what was come with that series.
No. Well, I think until J.J. Abrams, that series didn't know what it wanted to be like.
Well, I kind of liked the revolving door of directors approach, which is why it's kind of a bummer that it's just become the Macquarie Cruise show. But I also feel like that works because it's now like a completely different series. It's just a series in which Tom Cruise himself is the auteur, and so it doesn't really
That's
work
true.
to have anyone else attempt to be a director for it. But anyway, Mission to Mars,
I cannot in good conscience put it anywhere
really.
above D. Like as you see,
I've heard some good things about it, but I've never seen it.
there's some really cool sequences, all right? It's one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen. Let me remind you, Brian De Palma is like one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. And looking at this tier, it might not look like it, but he he was not afraid to, like I say, just fucking go for it at full speed. And even when he flopped, it was wild. Mission to Mars, there are a lot of cool visuals, especially in the beginning at like a party. There's this like endless shot. It's really good. Hi Mom, I'm actually going to put at the top of the C category. That's from his like I'll call it wannabe Godard period, where which isn't very good, but Hi Mom is the best of that period. It's fucking so weird. Hi Mom is one of the weirdest fucking movies I've ever seen, but it's pulled off not that well, but I like it. I'm trying to compliment it
Respect.
and I really can't. Robert De Niro is a little firecracker in that movie. It's fun. Obsession, I'm also going to put at the top of C. It's one of his lesser thrillers, but It's one of his most deliberate thrillers as well. There's a slowness to it that is not usually available within De Palma. I think it was a little too slow for De Palma, but I think that was deliberate. I think he was testing out, he was experimenting with different kinds of pacing. Passion, Numi Rapace and Rachel McAdams. I think it's the best of his late career movies. Which isn't to say it's very good, but it has a lot of interesting things in it. I'm not a huge fan of Passion, but it's better than like Redacted or Domino. Phantom of the Paradise, another A tier movie, very top of the A tier. My God, it is so much fun with Paul Williams and Jessica Harper from Suspiria is incredible in it as Phoenix. A beautiful musical. It's like uh, it's like a blood-soaked Beach Boys. It's pretty incredible. It's like Pet Sounds for goth kids. It's so good. I love that movie. I have not seen Get to Know Your Rabbit. All right, I was looking that up today. It apparently is all available on YouTube, but I refuse to believe that Get to Know Your Rabbit is a real movie. Never gonna watch it. Redacted is probably the worst Brian De Palma movie. But when he fell off, when he fell out of touch, he fell off completely. I love Scarface. It's going up to the S tier. I think it's a classic gangster movie. I think it's an excellent critique of capitalism, and I love the pairing of Oliver Stone writing it and De Palma directing it. It is like the most fanatical, fucking eccentric, and bizarre critique of capitalism you could ever see. It's such a bizarre critique of capitalism that you might even think that it's starting to believe in itself. By the end of the movie, it might forget what it's critiquing. It's fun. It's so cool and weird and interesting, and a lot of great visuals. What do you think of Scarface?
I haven't seen it.
What? What though? Come on,
No,
that's
I haven't.
thought everyone
I
saw
told you. I told
Scarface.
you every single movie of his I've seen.
I know. Okay. We'll move forward with it. I have a video on Scarface, I believe, that's still available on the channel. I love the
I'll
movie to
watch it
death.
soon. I'll get the further De Palma pills for you.
And I put Sisters directly up in the A tier. Margot
Yeah,
Kidder's
I
incredible in the
know.
film.
Sorry, I'm talking to the chat. Yeah, I know.
Shame her. Shame her, chat.
I know.
You need to watch Scarface.
I'm only one person.
Sisters is an excellent De Palma thriller. Probably De Palma's first excellent thriller. It's gorgeous. The use of split screen in there, I think, is probably his best. Him at his best, outside of Carrie, with the split screen usage. Snake Eyes, I'm going to put at the end of C, not because it's good,
Fair.
not because it's interesting, but only for maybe the first 8 to 10 minutes. It has my favorite Steadicam shot in the history of cinema, with Nick Cage going around the boxing arena,
Yeah.
like it is immaculately choreographed and composed, and it's just for that one scene. But I'm high on cinema when that one scene happens. I'm high on the fumes of cinema.
I think
I
it's a
mean, it's
pretty
not
good
good.
movie.
Do you like it?
I like it. I thought it was really good. I find the kind of the fact that it stops being a mystery movie kind of
Yeah.
isn't the coolest, but I think what it becomes is still a pretty well done thriller, and I love Nick Cage in general.
I think it's one of
And
the best intros. That first shot, right?
I
Like,
will say the first half it starts strong and it doesn't quite
yeah.
live up to that hype, but I still think it's very good.
Yeah, I might not be being as kind to it as I should be, because there were a lot of
I
cool
agree.
beats. A lot of cool beats.
Like that
And
overhead shot of the hotel rooms, like that shit
yes,
is
oh my
tight as
God, yeah,
fuck.
when it goes to Carla Gugino, like washing the
Yeah.
blood off her clothes, like,
Yeah, that
yeah,
shit is
that's really
great.
good. That's really good. You're right. Maybe I should just watch it again, and I might think it's a little bit better, but it probably won't make it above B, but just for the opening, it's a B. Like, that's an incredible opener. And we only got 3 more, ladies and gentlemen. The Untouchables, I think, is going above Casualties of War on the A tier. I know it's a little hokey. I know it's a little goofy, and it's pretty simplistic view of good and evil. But I think it's an excellent tale of good and evil. A great gangster movie again by Brian De Palma. The Wedding Party goes anywhere on the D tier. It doesn't really
S
matter.
tier.
That's his fucking wannabe Godard phase again. And then Wise Guys goes in the D tier. But I swear to God, this is one of my favorite directors. Look, 4 movies in the S tier. Look at that. I think everything C and up is at least interesting to engage with and to discuss. I think that Brian De Palma is a fascinating director with a psychology that hasn't necessarily been penetrated by a lot of cinephiles or film critics out there. I think he's really interesting. Ah, that was fun. That was fun, Isabel. How you feeling right now, Isabel?
Hungry.
Hungry? Yeah, we're about to end this stream here. I do want to thank everyone in the chat for everyone who stopped by the live stream, even if it was just for a few seconds. Thank you very much for stopping by. I had fun. What about you, Isabel?
I had a great time. I love talking about horror.
All right.
Best vibe. It's the best vibe.
It is such a cool vibe. I think we did okay. I think we did
I think it
okay.
went rather well, personally.
Yeah, we did okay. Yeah, thank you
Aside from
everybody who
comments I made about you at the start.
Yeah, you kicked it off by saying that I hated an entire ethnicity.
I
Like, how do I
did.
bounce back from that?
I'm so hormonal right now. I just hate
What?
myself. I
That's your
I'm
apology 2.5 hours later is I'm
I'm
sorry for
so
saying that you're a
sorry.
racist, but I'm hormonal.
To be fair, every time someone references Japanese cinema, you're like, oh, and you just start like invisibly getting sick, and I'm
Well,
like,
anytime
whoa.
well, everyone else when they hear the words Japanese cinema, they go, "Oh, oh." You
I'm
got to
so sorry.
counterbalance that.
I'm currently going insane, so I apologize. Zach is a hero. Zach is a gift to this world. Be
Thanks
nice
for
to Zach.
thanks for having another live stream. Hope to get another one soon. Thanks. Thank you very much for coming by. I'm glad you're appreciating them. Glad I made it here. Thank you both. Eat well, Isabel.
I will.
All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to end it now. Thanks for
Do it.
coming.